Good afternoon. I'm sorry we're having a little trouble getting started. I'm having a little trouble getting started this afternoon. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Oklahoma City Planning Commission for January 11th, 2018. Happy New Year. We upgraded the benches. They're not as hard as they used to be. I don't know if you've noticed, but if you have a cell phone with you, now would be a good time to turn it off. How this works is we'll do a little housekeeping here at the beginning, and then as we go through the regular order of business, we'll call each case in turn. We'll ask the applicant to come down, give us a brief explanation of what it is they're here to ask for. There'll be some discussion. Commissioners may ask some questions. We'll ask anybody else who's here that wants to speak to come forward, tell us why they want to tell us something. There may be more questions. Then there'll be some discussion, perhaps, amongst ourselves. We'll call a motion and vote on each item in turn. The first thing we're going to do is receive the minutes of the December 14th, 2017 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to receive the minutes of the December 14th, 2017 meeting. Would you cast your votes, please? They are received. We're off one somehow. There you go. All right, we're working. We have a few items that have been continued from today's docket. Will you read those for us, please?
Yes, we have about 5 items on your agenda that have been continued. For the record, it's item B40 for case PUD 1668 to defer that to February 8th. Item B41 for case ABC 918, defer that to January 25th. Item B42 is case SP 501, defer to February 8th. Item B43, case ED 221, defer to April 26th. And item B44, case CE 956, to defer to April 26th as well.
Is there anybody here who thought they were going to be heard on one of those items today? No? If not, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to continue the items.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue items 40 through 44. Would you cast your votes, please? They are continued.
We've also received some new requests for continuance. Item B5 on the agenda for case ED 222 is requested to continue to April 26th. Item B18 for case C6957 has been withdrawn. Item B33 for case SPUD 1027 deferred to January 25th. Item B35 for case PUD 1669 deferred to February 8th. Item B37 for CPA 10 defer to January 25th. And item B38 for PC 10523 defer to January 25th.
Is there anybody present who thought they were going to be heard on one of those items today? If not, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue items 5, 18, 35, 37, and 38, and 33. Will we cast our votes, please? They are continued. We have a few items that are on the consent agenda for today, although I understand there are a couple that have been asked to be removed. Initially, items 4 and 5 that were listed. One has been continued, 5, and one has been requested to be removed. Is that accurate? We're going to remove item 4, so we'll vote on that in turn, but
I'll read the remaining items on consent. For the record, item number 1 is PUD SP 1515G for a specific plan to PUD 1515. Item 2 is C6958, the final plat of Castlewood Trails, Section 5. Item 3 is case C6959, the final plat of Northwestern and 112th. Items 4 and 5 will be moved. Item 6 is CE 967 for a drainage easement located at 9008 Scarlet Boulevard. Item 7 is CE 968 to close easements around Northwest 63rd and Grand. And item 8 is ABC 916 for an ABC 2 overlay of PUD 631.
Is there anybody who wanted to be heard on any of those items today? No? I'll take a motion.
Move the consent docket except for items 4 and 5.
I have a motion and a second to continue items 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, and 8. Cast your votes, please. They are approved.
Going back to item 4 from consent, this will be under items requiring separate vote. So item 4 is C6951, the final plat of Spring Creek Office Park.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant. Also with me is Mark Grubbs, who's a civil engineer for this project. The reason that we ask that this be pulled, it is a final plat, and we do adhere to the subdivision regulations, and we do agree substantially, not altogether, with the technical valuations. We agree with TE2, and we agree with TE1, except for 2 sentences that are found within the body of your staff report. The first being on page 4, under paragraph 8, which is entitled Utilities, sub A, sub 6, which reads, no structure within 20 feet of any existing or proposed sanitary sewer main. Turning then to page 5, under paragraph 8, sub C, sub 6, no structures within 20 feet of any existing or proposed water main or fire hydrant. Our problem is that the subdivision regulations make clear that the city can request up to 15 feet for an easement. What Utilities seeks to do here is to seek easements greater than the subdivision regulations allow. What they seek to do is to control rights outside of the easement that they are getting through this process by limiting buildings. So where it becomes really problematic is a situation like this, highlighted in red. Here is the water, and here is the sewer. Again, 15 feet is what the subdivisions say up to. We're willing to give that. But if you require no buildings to be built within 20 feet of the line itself, what that does is it adds an extra 25 feet to the 15-foot easement. So what the city is asking to do is create a 40-foot swath through the middle of a certain piece of this property, even though the subregs say up to 15 feet. That to me feels like it's a taking. I don't know how we can justify a 40-foot swath when the subdivision regulations say 15 feet. My client's certainly willing to give 15 feet. I'm told that it's an unwritten new policy. I think the development community would be fine if it was a written policy. But to ask for extra land in which you have no legal rights to, I don't know that the city can justify that request. If you play it out, if this was on a border of a piece of property, think about what the city's asking. If you had a 15-foot easement, what they're saying is, we want you to agree through a provision in the body of a staff report that there will be no buildings within 20 feet of the line itself. So assume the line is in the middle of the easement. So that would be 7.5 feet to the edge of the easement. If the property line was at the edge of the easement, what they're asking me to agree to through a sentence in the body of the staff report is to prohibit building on somebody else's property for the first 12.5 feet. You can't do that. So we're certainly willing to give the 15 feet, which is what the regulations that are written require, but to ask for 20 additional feet on either side of the line is essentially asking for a 40-foot easement. Perhaps there's a justification that can be made. I'm not sure what it is.
Well, rather than discuss it in a sort of generic way with respect to what if it were here, why don't you tell us what it would do to the particular...
Well, here, because it runs through the middle of the property, it potentially cuts off pieces of buildings. I'm not sure how the building permit department would even track that, because they're going to look for a recorded easement. So some agreement about 25 extra feet made at this podium, I'm not sure how it could ever be tracked if somebody goes to build a building within that 12 and a half feet. So you see our water line runs right through the middle of our parking lot. It could chop off pieces of these two buildings.
If I may jump in, I found that on projects, a lot of times that has to do with the depth, and then, whether they've got enough working room on either side. And I see we've got water here. In case you want to speak up on this particular project, on what we might be able to do.
Can I see? I'm sorry. Nathan Madenwald with the Utilities Department, City of Oklahoma City.
And if there's somebody, yourself or someone else, who wants to speak to us about the unwritten new policy, I think we'd be interested in that as well.
I would say it's not really an unwritten new policy. It's something we've been utilizing for quite some time. It's just a design standard where in typical residential subdivisions, you'll have the water line that's in the street right away, and you'll have building setbacks. So we're not requesting that they granted an easement. We would be fine with setbacks, or we would be open to them looking at an alternative design where they don't have to bring a water line onto their property. So we're not requiring that it be easement. I don't think our report states that.
Is this within a setback?
I don't believe there's any shown.
I believe we're required to bring public water to the site pursuant to the subdivision regulations.
But you don't have to do it in a particular configuration you have proposed, correct?
Certainly we could move it, but that perhaps highlights the problem here. If you look at the subdivision regulations, which I'm passing out, you'll see a box around subparagraph A, where it specifically states easements not less than 15 feet in width. That's what we're proposing to give, exactly what is required pursuant to the subdivision regulations. To require something that isn't written is problematic.
Again, I don't believe we're requiring more easement than 15 feet.
Well, whether you're, I get you're not, you can't require an easement, but effectively, if he agrees that by this, that he won't build in that, it's the same, it carries a lot of the same impact. To the developer, it doesn't care if you call it an easement, you call it an agreement, or whatever. He can't use the property as they would like to, and I understand that.
And perhaps more space is needed, and perhaps the subregs need to be amended accordingly. But if we're providing what is required under the subregs, to ask for more space, I think is an unreasonable request.
Can we get some color from legal on this?
Well, I mean, I agree that the subdivision regulations only require 15 feet. I think it depends upon whether or not the utilities department needs that for this particular area. I certainly understand what their issue is as far as not having structures next to their water lines and the problems that we've had in the past experience as far as those lines breaking and being able to go in and fix those. I guess it all depends on whether or not it's a reasonable condition. I mean, you do have in your subdivision regulations conditions of plat approval where you have the authority to have the developer has to comply with reasonable conditions of approval by the Planning Commission for design, dedication, improvement, and restrictive use of land so as to conform with physical and economical development of the city and for the public health, safety, and welfare. So I guess it boils down to whether or not that particular amount or that particular condition is necessary and reasonable in this particular case.
Yeah, if there was something unique about this tract in which they believed, in order to properly maintain the facilities that will be in place there, that would be a reasonable request. It's my understanding that this is a request made on every single application that comes before the Planning Commission and City Council, obviously just Planning Commission on plats. So if they believe in order to properly maintain and service their facilities, more than 15 feet is needed, they need to ask for that through a technical evaluation. To require a 20-foot no building line on either side of a line through a sentence in the body of a staff report I don't think is reasonable.
And again, I do want to bring up, we're not saying we need it for maintenance. I mean, there's other considerations that are made. It's a pressurized system, so should a structure blow out and it's within 20, if it's closer than 20 feet, you could see damage to that structure, create liability for the city.
I do agree that it needs to be a T. I think this can surprise people who otherwise, when reviewing their applications, expect boilerplate language in the body, which I know a lot of times I expect because we see a lot of these. If it's not a T, sometimes it can be missed, and I think that there can be cases where somebody might agree to something that they don't realize they're agreeing to on that.
Yeah, I agree completely. I oftentimes don't read the entire body. I, do the Cliff Notes version and skip to the recommendation and go from there unless something like this is brought to my attention. But I think he said he doesn't need it for maintenance. When asking or seeking easements, you legally are only entitled to seek what you need, what is reasonably necessary. And to seek something outside of that is a taking. So we can agree to all the TEs, except I would ask that the specific sentences referenced be struck so that they aren't considered an engineering requirement or a utility requirement at the time of permit review.
I'm not quite sure what your problem is. If the language is not a TE, why are you concerned about it being in the body of the staff report?
Because what staff is doing is, what they're saying is, you agreed to TE1. You agreed to the generic TE1 that says all engineering division, wastewater, utility division, et cetera, must be met. And then they're saying, well, one of our requirements is that specifically sentence number 6. And to Commissioner Highsmith's point, I think the trouble for developers and folks that represent developers is a lot of times you look to the TEs to see the specific requirements, not reading through every single sentence in the body. But if you're going to tack back and say, well, you agree to TE1, which is a catch-all for every sentence in the body of a paragraph, the fear it's going to create is we're going to have tremendously long planning commission meetings where we're haggling over what does that TE number 1 really mean, sentence by sentence. And I'm not sure that's what anybody wants to do. These specific requests, if there's a justification for them, need to be listed as a TE, so it could be argued like this.
Well, I tend to agree with that statement. However, I'm not quite sure how to deal with it right now today. I mean, are you in a hurry? Would you like to have this case continued so that we can hammer this out, or?
How long?
2 weeks. Surely you can hammer it out in that time, can't you?
I'm out of state in 2 weeks, and I have the utmost confidence in Mr. Grubbs, but since he has no formal legal training, I think I would be better serving my client if perhaps I was here on this specific issue. I mean, our request would be just to strike those out, those sentences, in the absence of a specific justification on this site.
You know, normally I'd be willing to take that on, but on an item that was on the consent agenda, which I'll confess did not garner my entire attention, and just sitting here around the horseshoe today, I'd kind of like to have the staff have the opportunity to state their case and do what they feel like is necessary to make this thing work. So, if
February 8th.
February 8th works for me. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
But before we do that, is there anybody else who wants to be heard on this matter today? Okay.
Sure, a lot of people will ultimately like to be heard on this matter.
Do we need to be heard today, or can we wait?
No, me and Dwight Butler with Anchor Engineering. I stand behind David.
Great. Do I have a motion? You two,
Kendall.
come on.
Yeah.
Now that it has come to my attention, Kendall Dillon, Craft and Toll, same comment in my staff report, so I just want to make sure that on our application today that I'm not agreeing to a 40-foot easement, so for what that's worth.
Here we go. Mark Grubbs.
Mark Grubbs, 18. I have other applications with this same general comment on them that are on today. So, it's just something that needs to be worked out, and it's just not, it's not written, and it needs to be worked out. So that's what we're bringing before your attention.
And I appreciate that. Are we saying that we want our cases continued until it is worked out? No? No? Okay. So are we going to argue about it on each case as we go along?
Well, Madam Chairwoman, I think rather I'm glad they stepped up, because if we would have continued his, then we were going to be on a roll. So is there another way we can address it on each of these? I know we can approve these without certain TEs. Can we approve it with a request that staff amend their report to strike or to change that to 15 feet? Will that work?
You can certainly just delete that sentence out of the report. Or the water can decide that, that is, make their case that that's necessary, and you can vote that it needs to be.
If David, he said he wanted to come talk to us and come up with what's the appropriate resolution, we could agree to, say the appropriate setback as determined through discussion between legal counsel and the attorneys, and then finalize that as this moves along.
It's a final plat, though.
How long has that 20-foot been in there?
We've had it in there for quite some time.
And this is the first time that it's come up?
Well, it may be the first time. In a new subdivision, it may not necessarily be so egregious, because you might be able to plan for it. But it does have a negative impact in that it potentially affects both sides of the street. So for a developer, now that compresses the back sides of your lots, I'm really poor at this, but I could see how that front setback where you're running down just kind of limits your buildable area. So I frankly had not paid that much attention to it. It's kind of an interesting conversation. But I don't want to have it all day, today. That's my point. So if you guys want to hear your cases, we're going to hear it, we'll make a decision. But we're going to have to come up with a guideline on that, because we got a lot of folks here today who don't really care about these guys' easements.
And there's been other cases where I've argued this point. Here, it's just exceedingly burdensome because of the small size of the lot. And so it has greater consequences than perhaps another large, rectangular, easy site to serve. But yeah, I mean, like I said, we're fine with the 15 feet. We'd like to strike those. We're happy to meet with Nathan. Frankly, it'd probably be the engineers that would be meeting with them. They speak the same language. I'm happy to attend, though.
Okay, what I'm going to recommend we do is continue David's case until February the 8th, deal with the other cases in their turn, and frankly, we'll get to that when we get to that. So, do I have a motion?
Yes.
Second.
A motion is second to continue item number 4 until February the 8th. Would you cast your votes, please? February the 8th. It's continued.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 9, ABC 917 for an ABC2 overlay of the C3, CBO, and ABC1 districts located at 3325 North Classen Boulevard.
Is the applicant present?
He is not. My name is Aaron Manley. I represent Luigi Del Cid, Cafe Cacao.
Tell us what it is you're asking for.
Essentially, what we're seeking is, we have an ABC1 currently. We're seeking an ABC2 for brunch, cocktails, drinks, and beer. And we're now open for dinner.
So this is an existing restaurant?
Correct.
And you've got an ABC1?
Correct.
You're upgrading to an ABC2?
Yes.
Is the request?
Yes.
Okay. I do have someone that signed up to speak on this matter. J.L. Mercado, is that true? Is that even close? Come down. Give us your name and address for the record, please. Pull that down so that there you go.
It's J.L. Mercado, 1434 Northwest 33rd Street.
And what did you want to tell us about this?
Well, I'm 3 doors down from the restaurant, and I am concerned about alcohol consumption, bringing in more congestion when it comes to traffic in our area. We already have an existing issue, and I'm afraid this is going to attract even more patrons. I'm not against the restaurant, but I'm concerned about safety, the welfare of my neighbors and my child, and so I am opposed.
So you live on 33rd?
Yes, ma'am.
And to the west?
Yes, 3 doors down to the west, yes.
And you said there's already an issue. What are the issues you have now?
With parking, so we have our neighbors and myself, we have trouble coming in and out of our driveways because although the restaurant has, they've rented a space or across the street very recently before that, and it continues to happen. We still back out of our driveway, and there's cars blocking us. And that's already a concern, and now with this new proposition to have alcohol served, or I'm more concerned about that.
Okay, thank you. Tell me again your name, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's JL.
I'm sorry, not you, the gentleman who's here to speak for the applicant. Tell me again.
Aaron Manley?
Aaron Manley?
Yes.
So do you have anything to tell us about the parking issue and what can be done to?
Yes, actually, we rented space across the street that added several spaces to provide for Cafe Cacao patrons, and we're also in talks with Lauder and Associates, which is the law firm just to the south, to buy up a strip of their land to actually create more parking as well.
And do you have a way, signage or whatever, to direct people to that parking?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Commissioners, this is my ward, but I can't make a motion, so. Is there anybody else who wants to be heard on this matter today?
Well, I think that given, understanding the concerns, I think given that it's already an existing restaurant that already serves some form of alcohol, and it does appear that the restaurant is attempting to make efforts to mitigate their parking issues, based on those facts, I'll move approval of this application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 9. Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved.
Thank you.
Item number 10. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Item 10 is SPUD 1023 to rezone 1301 Northeast 14th Street from R1 to SPUD 1023.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. I'm not here to talk about water lines or sewer lines. This is an application to rezone what is currently the Ronald McDonald House to a SPUD that would allow the VA to take over use of that facility to offer various services to veterans. We do agree with all the TEs, and I have with me Colonel Gilbo, who is going to be better equipped to address the specific uses that will be going on within this property. I do want to address one point that Dr. Cooper and I have talked about. If you look at page 2 of your staff report and into page 3, what it says is, in addition to the above permitted uses, the following use description shall also be permitted within this SPUD. And what you see after that is a 2-paragraph description of the Ronald McDonald House. The reason we included that was the current owner was concerned that if the zoning went through and somehow the sale fell through, their use is not incorporated within the SPUD. So this is kind of a safety provision so that if the sale does go through, the Ronald McDonald House can continue to operate now through what would be a new SPUD. Dr. Cooper's asked if, or I offered that in the event that the SPUD is approved and in fact the closing goes through, we could administratively amend the SPUD to remove the Ronald McDonald House language. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I do want Colonel Gilbo to come and discuss all the various services that veterans will be provided.
I have a question for
Yes.
you about this. There's some confusion in my mind on page 3 of the staff report talking about maximum building height. It seems to indicate that if a new building were built, they would comply with O2, but if the existing building is expanded, it can be the same size height-wise as the existing building, and even if that contravenes O2, and that's a little bit problematic for me. I don't want to see a building that's sort of oversized.
Sure. So all we're trying to accomplish is because there'd be efficiencies in having, if there's an expansion, having it match floor plates, because the existing building's there, and I'm not sure if there is any protest. There hasn't been to this point. Our belief was that building has existed harmoniously with the neighborhood for quite some time. We don't know if there will be an expansion, but we have to provide for it now, so we don't have to come through another zoning process. That any existing building would be in similar scale in terms of height with what's there now. And I'm not sure of what O2, I'd have to defer to staff on what O2 would allow. We didn't have the building survey to get the exact height of what it is. We just know if we did expand, we want it to be, so it wouldn't look odd, frankly, that to have, I don't think we'd ever go over that. We just want to be able to.
Well, if I recall, O2 requires step down the closer you get to residential. So, and that would be my concern, just that if the building were doubled in size and it's all the same height, suddenly it's, massive. Others may not be as concerned. Did you want to have your applicants speak? Give us your name and address to the record, please.
Yes, Wilson Gilbo, retired colonel. I'm with Cognition LLC, 2613 Southwest 121 Court, Oklahoma City. I'd just like to take just a couple of minutes to help you all understand what this is not and identify what it is. First, it is the first Veterans Resource Center in the United States. It is designed specifically for providing 7 services. What it will not do is provide domiciliary services. There will be no overnight stays in this facility. The 7 services are homeless prevention and rapid rehousing, employment and training program, transitional housing, behavioral health treatment, permanent supportive housing, nutrition services, and almost as important as any of the others, case management for all the veterans that are being served. If anyone would like for me to go into each of these or into any of these, I'm happy to do so, but in the interest of time, that's what we're providing.
This facility is relatively close to the VA hospital, is that correct?
That's correct, sir. As a matter of fact, the VA specifically targeted that building for its proximity and for its layout. It is extremely well suited for what the VA needs.
Can I ask staff, do the use units that they have permit overnight stays? Okay. Is there anybody else?
They've addressed my major concern with that language that was problematic for me, but that concession, even though it's unusual, I can accept that they can come back and amend after the sale. I don't know why it's necessary to have that language in there. However, if it's important to move this forward, I don't have a problem with this facility that will be used for veterans in our county and in our state that is crucially important for services with our veterans. So.
Let me ask, is there anybody else who wants to be heard on this matter today? No?
And for the record, we do. We commit, we will modify those paragraphs out It was just a specific provision in the contract between the parties that it would be included just in case the sale were to go away.
Did you want to be heard? Come down and give us your name and address, please.
We have provided...
Would you give us your name and address?
I'm sorry.
Director, please?
Susan Adams with Ronald McDonald House Charities. My address is 604 Northwest 149th Street in Edmond, but an Oklahoma City address. We have provided services from this location since 1984. We partner with area hospitals to enable family-centered care, keeping families of sick children closest to the care and resources they need. We are a stakeholder in the Culbertson East Highland neighborhood, and we have appreciated the city's investment in the Strong Neighborhoods Initiative. We have been well served by city departments, Oklahoma City Police and Fire, as well as the OU Police Department. However, the situation we're faced with area hospitals expanding and providing more specialized services, the need for our programs continues to grow. So our board of directors felt it a very critical need and engaged a community needs assessment, after which it was determined that we needed more than the 28 rooms we have. We needed 40 rooms to serve families seeking treatment at the OU Children's Hospital. And so we have made the decision to expand, to relocate the capacity from this location. Keeping families closest to their child's bedside is one of the most critical factors in a parent taking self-care so they can help care for their child. So for this and other reasons, we decided to expand. We were approached by representatives of VAF Owner LLC to purchase our facilities. We are in support of this application and respectfully request your approval. If I might amplify on this question about the request, I understand from talking to a representative of the Planning Department that we have what's called an overlay that, and if that information is correct, exists, and I understood him correctly, exists for as long as we are operating on this property. We cannot be in a position where we need to move out in anticipation of closing. We need the funding for this to go on and fund the program expansion at the other location. So therefore, it's important for us to be able to retain the right to operate this until after we have been closed, and then occupancy will follow closing as agreed upon between the parties.
Yeah, that's not an issue for me. Is there anybody else that has any questions of Ms. Adams?
I just commend Ronald McDonald House. You've been a good neighbor in the community and have functioned very well. I pray that you'll be able to continue to minister to families.
We plan on it. Thank you.
Sounds like a good deal to me.
Do I have a motion?
I move adoption.
Second.
With the understanding that it will be amended after closing.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 10 with the understanding that the language regarding the operation of the Ronald McDonald's House will be amended out after closing. Is that right? Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved.
Thank you.
Item 11 is SPUD 1026 to rezone 10501 South Broadway Avenue from AA to SPUD 1026.
Good afternoon. I'm Nancy Wallace, and I reside at the residence there at 10501 South Broadway Avenue. My husband purchased this property in 69, built in, purchased it in 59, built in 61, has lived there ever since then. Since that time, it was we were out in the country, and that has drastically changed. We plan not ourselves to do anything to the property, but we would like it zoned as a SPUD so that when we will have to move, if something happens to him, there's no way I can keep up with the property. He's 100% disabled, and I have the task of taking care of the 2 acres myself. On the other picture of it, you can see it's a very treed area, and it becomes quite a task to keep up with the limbs falling and that kind of thing. Directly across east of us is a strip business area, and then right beside that is a veterinarian, and then the street of Santa Fe, which is a main street. 104th is a main street on South Side. And a catty corner, you can see the picture of the house at the top. Right beside that, in the process right now, is an on-queue being built. and you can see the strip beside us. Right south of the strip is a spud regulation there with that house and the property with the veterinarian. The gentleman who lives directly west of us, he and I are the only two residents from east of Santa Fe to west of Western. That whole south side, there are only two residents in that over a mile section. North of 104th are all stockade fenced private residencies, except on the corner where the on-queue is, and then on the corner of Western is a big shopping area and apartments. And we would like to have it rezoned so that when it is sold, it gives another option to perhaps the person who buys it if they want to develop it, or it can stay as a private residence. It would be up to the purchaser.
Wouldn't it, I mean, I'm not going to question necessarily why, I don't want to, but doesn't it make more sense to allow the buyer to decide? Or do you already have somebody who's looking at the property?
Well, no, I've had some interest expressed for the property, and our thought was perhaps that when we sell it, it might be available, I mean, it could raise more money because they'll have to move.
Sure, I just think, a lot of times some of these things can be very specific, and so if there's like one piece of language that doesn't quite suit the potential buyer, they'll have to come back.
Well,
I just hate to...
I'm looking at it from the potential of ownership, and it has restrictions. The man who lives next door is a gentleman who helped write the SPUD for the one opposite him, and we have visited with him, and he says he has no objections to it because it's to be within a certain parameter, to look like a home with a gabled roof and all. And that means if the person who buys the property has the option of either using it as a residence, as it is, or if they choose to develop it, it is their choice.
I have a question for staff. I'm a little confused with respect to what seemed to me to be contradictory provisions in the staff report as to whether or not there will be access allowed onto Broadway.
No.
So the existing driveway would be closed off?
Yes, and it would be only the access from 104th.
And only a single access?
Yes. If there would be like two buildings, it would still be just a single access into that area.
Thank you.
But you'll have to do that if you stay in the house. You'll have to move your access to 104th. Is that correct?
No. It stays as is as long as it's a residence and someone's living in. If we sell it as a residence, it will remain the same. It's only if someone develops it as a SPUD could they have the entrance off 104th.
Yeah, so keep our residential access as it is. If it develops, it would go to 104th Street. Our technical evaluation and request was to keep the one on Broadway as well. Her SPUD said 104th only, but we thought it would make more sense to have both.
Is there anybody else who wants to be heard on this matter today? Commissioners?
I move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 11. Would you cast your votes, please? It's approved.
Thank you.
Item number 12 is SPUD 1028 to rezone 8900 Northwest 10th Street from PUD 553 to SPUD 1028.
Would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Madam Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, my name is Greg Ferris. I reside at 144 South Bay Country Court in Wichita, Kansas. I'm representing T-Mobile today. Also with me today is George Wyrick from the Oklahoma City office of T-Mobile, if you have any specific questions for them. This is a pretty simple request. This is an existing PUD that allowed a wireless communication facility, 120 foot tall, but the previous PUD required that all equipment would be housed in a building. AT&T and Verizon use buildings to house their equipment, T-Mobile does not. They use outdoor radio equipment and do not house them in buildings. So we have been required to change this PUD with a new PUD that is exactly the same as the old, it's a SPUD, it's the same as the old PUD, with the exception that we are allowed to have equipment outside of buildings. You can see from the aerial, the site is heavily wooded. You cannot see this site from any street or any adjoining property. We don't believe there will be any impact in anything in the area, and would just ask that you approve the request, and would be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Is there anyone else who wants to be heard on this item? Commissioners?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 12. Cast your votes, please. It is approved.
Item number 13 is SPUD 1031 to rezone 1539 Northwest 29th Street from R1 to SPUD 1031.
Hi, Ken Fitzsimmons of Task Design at 1228 Northwest 36.
David Carr, reside at 4307 Butler Place in Oklahoma City. I'm one of the owners of this property.
Tell us what you're asking for.
Well, this spud is south of the alley of a property that David and his brother and father have previously purchased, and also had a spud approved by City Council last month. And so the reason we're asking for this spud is to match that language, and the idea is to do a development that would be from Northwest 30th to Northwest 29th along Blackwelder. And the idea is to do, there's two lots, one north of the alley, one south of the alley. The one north of the alley was previously approved, this one south of the alley, but they'd like to develop them in the same way where they can split these lots into two and build one, up to one quadplex on each lot.
And so we're going to specify that development style.
Right. Per the email we sent yesterday, the language in there, I know that you said you had concerns about 8 detached units on the property, and so they're fine with limiting it to 2 structures.
And we're going to go with regular big blue trash pickup, no dumpsters on site.
That's definitely the way that we would rather see it go. The only reason that language is in there, I think Nathan and I had spoke about it. His concern was that if there's cars that park in front of the blue bins on trash day, that they would tell us that we couldn't use their blue bins anymore and have to get a dumpster. But they will be the landlords, and they'll make sure that the tenants are aware that they need to give some space.
Commissioners?
I'm sorry. Question on the other spud. I guess this is directly north. What is it? 1006.
Yes.
What is that spud?
It's the language is identical to what you see here.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Okay.
And frankly, this is something that we were sort of contemplating even as that zoning was going forward, that the lot on the south side of the alley would develop the same way that the lot on the north side of the alley would develop. But they were ready to move on that one, and so they went ahead, and now they've bought the other lot, and they're going to mirror that development. So, is there anybody else here who wants to be heard on this matter? Commissioners?
Yeah, Madam Chairwoman, I hesitate bringing it up. The issue that we discussed at the beginning about this is a small location. Are they going to have an issue with that 20-foot versus 15-foot? And I'll look at my fellow Commissioner Highsmith. You're my expert on these small developments. Where's the water main? I didn't quite follow the earlier discussion that David had, but they need to...
We've actually spoke to Nathan about it, and the water lines are on 29th Street and 30th, and our game plan is to, as you see in the site plan, there's a 5-foot strip. If we subdivide it, there's a 5-foot strip on the property closest to the street that would accommodate a private water line to get to the building to the south of that.
Okay.
Or to the north of it in this case.
This would have a 40-foot swath like others were concerned with. But you guys
No,
okay with that?
because once it gets into the private property, then that 20-foot clearance doesn't apply. That just applies to public water.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
Both buildings are sprinkled?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's a building code requirement.
Move the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 13. Cast your votes, please. It is approved.
Thank you.
Item 14 is PUD 1667 to rezone 2811 Southeast 29th from R1 and R4 to PUD 1667.
Is the applicant present? Could you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, I'm John Gary, the Superintendent for Animal Welfare for Oklahoma City, address 17200 Avila Lane. So what we've requested is just, we need to try to promote our programs more there at Animal Welfare and to try to get our message out to our community that's close to the shelter there. And it's a pretty good traffic area down 29th Street there, and so we wanted a way to be able to promote programs. They change frequently, so we wanted to be able, as they change, to be able to promote them there. And also, if many people drive past not even realizing that we are the animal shelter there, and so we wanted a way to be able to show that.
One of the things that caught my attention right away, of course, is the size of your sign. And I'm not quite as troubled by the height as I am by the idea of it being basically a pole sign. Is it going to be possible for you to convert that into a monument sign?
We could agree to that, yes, if that's what's needed, yes.
I did have a question.
I got to ask this question, right? So that may alter your cost structure. So I just didn't understand what you got approval for. It's not my deal. I don't, frankly, but if this is a sign you got approved, do you have to go back to anybody and ask them if you can do a monument sign?
We will have to come up with additional funding in order to do a monument sign, but I mean, if that's the only way to be able to have the sign, then we'll be willing to do that.
So it costs more money to do that?
Yes.
I don't know if I want it that bad. Somebody, no offense, but the superintendent may not have the budgetary or the approval authority to alter what he's got approved through the budgetary or procurement process. You got a bid for X, now he's got X plus.
Is this like a moving sign where it says spay and neuter your dog? Is that a rotating?
Yes, it's LED, and it'll have different messages about spay-neuter programs, adoptions, those kind of things.
This is on the Grand Boulevard side?
It'll actually be on 29th Street.
Okay. Can you show me on the property exactly where you're talking about?
Yes. So we have the main entrance to our shelter is there off 29th, and it would sit to the east of that entrance there. Yes, in that area there.
That's not what is our picture over here. This is the subject side 12.9, so it's going to sit closer up here to that corner, triangular corner there.
No, it's exactly the same picture.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Sign's located right there, just along 29th Street, just east of the driveway entrance.
Thanks.
And I understand you actually have another entrance already onto Grand.
Yes, we do have a grand entrance as well, yes.
Okay, and you're wanting another entrance for the eventual dog park, is that right?
Yes, we have a large field that's basically to the east of the shelter there that right now is pretty much no use to it, and at some point in the future we would like to be able to use it for something, and a dog park's been one of the things that's been brought up. It may not end up being a dog park, but something along those lines sometime during the future. So when that happens, we would want an entrance there off of Bryant.
Is there anybody else who wants to be heard on this matter today? Commissioners?
Would you be willing to move the sign? I really don't like the idea of the sign, and given the topography on 29th Street, you can see pretty well. My question would be, would you be willing to move it away from 29th Street 5 feet?
If the property allows that, yes, as long as it's viewable from the street there. I mean, that's really the main entrance there. I will say that if it goes too far back...
Are you saying that something is obstructing it? Because as I drove by, I couldn't see anything that was really obstructing.
No, there's some treated areas in there, but we did want it to be able to be, seen from a distance. But there are some trees there that could block it if you moved it too far back onto the property.
Is there a power line there, too?
It actually sits just on the north side of the power lines. That's one reason.
I really believe in what you guys do.
Yeah.
And I think it's really necessary that people know that you're there, because it's a service that I think is crucial. It's just, typically, I'm not in favor of the lighted EMD signs and those kinds of things, and particularly the size of this one, but I'm okay.
You want monument? Because actually, we do favor monument signs. I'm just saying, as a matter of practice, he has to go back and get approval for a different sign, unless this is within his budget, which I can't say.
Okay, bottom line is, I prefer a monument sign, yes, but I really believe in what they do and the mission that they have. I'd like to hear from the other commissioners and how they feel about it, because my concern is the precedents that we set sitting around this shoe, and what that means going forward in terms of everyone else who will come to here. And you look at the topography of 29th Street, and it does not, there's nothing really impeding the signage.
Yeah, I'll say, good point on the precedent, and if it's the city of Oklahoma City setting the precedent, that's pretty hard to argue with. So I'd agree. I think willing to do a monument sign and thinks he can get it paid for, that it would be better to get started on that street. So if you said you'd agree to it, I think that'd be a good idea.
It allows us to maintain the moral high ground. Second.
Careful.
Yes.
So is that a motion and a second? Is that what I have?
Understood that to be Lee's motion. Approval subject to monument sign with these dimensions.
I have a motion and a second to approve item 14, subject to a monument sign and pushing it back off of 29th, 5 feet, if that's possible for you to do with respect to your sight lines. Okay. Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved. Thank you.
Item 15 is case C-6956, the final plat of the Bower. This does, it doesn't require a variance, never mind.
Just FYI, guys, I thought we'd be a lot farther along than we are by this time today, so. Could you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Terrence Haynes with SMC Consulting Engineers, 815 West Main, Oklahoma City. I'm here on behalf of Richard McCowan. Christopher Anderson was planning to be here today, but he's caught the flu, and I promise you I didn't bring it with me. We're proud to present the final plat of the Bower at 4th and Lee. We'll make a presentation brief. However, we do need to have a couple of discussion items regarding the staff report as well as the technical evaluations. As was earlier pointed out by Mr. Box, we also have the same type of language written in the staff report, and that is we have water lines that you can't build within 20 feet of those water lines sanitary sewer, there's also a statement that would be on page 2, excuse me, on page 4, it's under section 3.8.8.A.6, excuse me, I'll repeat that, 3.8.A.6, which states no structures within 10 feet of sanitary sewer. Now, we're very, the sanitary sewer, there's 2 lines. Let me just back up just a little bit. Staff may not have had an opportunity to see the actual plan. This is a very unique development which has split lots that are separated from the public street but do touch a public alleyway on the north side. As you can see, there are lots, there are common lots. Those common lots also contain utility easements which serve the individual interior spaces, interior lots as well. Those common lots also have access points for driveway to the parking facility located on the north side off of the alleyway. But we do need to bring in sanitary sewer in order to service the individual spaces of each of the lots that are out there. And so what Mr. McCowan has passed out are some additional drawings to help you understand this exciting development, and it is unique in its nature. We did have an opportunity to talk with Mr. Wilson, Mr. Mike Wilson, regarding a comment that he made under section 3.2.3, in which he said, objection, provide turn around and through connection. His response was he did not have an opportunity to see the full scope of the project. He saw the final plat, and that was where that statement came from. And he also stated that he's okay with the proposed layout, and he could speak to that if you need him to. Fire hydrants will be provided as required. Again, we certainly would like to be able to comply with the no structures within 10 feet of sanitary sewer. And we will do our very best to make sure those sanitary sewer manholes are located 10 feet from a structure. But we certainly cannot comply with the statement no structures within 20 feet of an existing proposed water line, because we have to provide a fire line service into the building. And that fire line service, where we make the point of connection on the public system, is within 20 feet. Lastly, on the technical evaluations.
So I want to be just really clear I understood what you just said. It's the connection to the public line that's within 20 feet.
That's correct.
Okay.
On the technical evaluations, again, we're acceptance with those exceptions under number 1, we're okay with it. Number 2, we're fine with it. Number 3, makes a recommendation for sidewalks, or not recommendation, but says sidewalks are required to be built. This is a all-inclusive type development where sidewalks are located through the access easements and utility easements throughout the development, as you can see in your packet. So we feel that sidewalks are provided, but if this body deems it's necessary that we obtain a variance because we do have disconnected lots from the public rights-of-way, then we would then request a variance to Section 5.4.2.E of the subdivision regulations. We are also requesting a variance to Section 5.2.1 related that all lots have access to an approved street or private access drive, again, because of unique nature of the development.
So let me get a clarification on that point. As to TE number 3, are the sidewalks that they're providing sufficient to meet the subdivision requirement? Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No problem.
You were done?
I am.
First of all, let me ask, is there anybody else who wants to be heard on this matter today? Commissioners, do you have
Where are the
questions?
sidewalks specifically?
They're there.
Just so I'm clear.
Well, I'll let you speak on that.
Thank you, Mr. Eisman. Sidewalks will be provided along 4th Street, along the frontage in the right-of-way.
Okay.
But we also have, from 4th Street, there's a sidewalk that will enter right in the center of the building.
Right.
And up to the parking garage area, which is located on the north half of the development. Mm-hmm. And then we do have designated pathways because we have a couple of ADA compliant parking spaces.
Right.
And so we have a designated walkway. Now, that entire area on the north side is paved with parking. It's
Okay.
not technically sidewalk, but it is paved.
Right.
So we do have interconnects between the individual lots.
And that will allow pedestrian access back out into the alley.
Yes, sir.
And then you would have the sidewalk then along 4th Street.
That is correct.
Okay, thanks. That helped me.
Anyone else?
I think the biggest question right now is the water lines, right?
It is.
So if Nathan's still available back there, it would be great if we could just, on this one, get some kind of understanding on what we can do. Oh, there he is.
Nathan Madwell, City of Oklahoma City Utilities Department. I believe we worked with Richard closely on this one and the water lines in the street, so we are having 20 feet of separation. Downtown areas where you have zero limit lines, it's very difficult to do that, so we would be okay with them striking the comment on this one just due to the restrictions in downtown development.
So would we want to strike the whole TE, or do we want to just simply modify it to indicate that the requirement for separation from water lines would be?
In this case, we have plenty of right-of-way, so if we needed to move the water line, we would be able to move it in another location and still get separation from either side. In downtown, we have to have water lines in the street. The previous case, we just didn't have a whole lot of site development information to know, is there another location where the water line could go to get as much separation as possible. So
My question really is, though, that the TE reads all engineering division, water, wastewater, utilities division, and development services department requirements must be met.
Yes.
Are we going to waive that whole comment, or are we just going to modify it to indicate that the separation from the water lines will be in accordance with the design provided?
Or would it be that we strike the are we striking the language in comment 6 in both, in the utilities, sanitary sewer section and water availability section of this application? Is that, I'm with you. I don't want to, I want to understand exactly what we're doing.
It's the status of the staff report as part of the approval is a little fuzzy to me here. So if striking a sentence out of the staff report is going to get them what they need, that's fine with me. But somebody want to weigh in?
Are we okay to do that?
Yeah, I think you can do that. I would just strike that paragraph 6.
And that somehow affects the approval that we're granting because we're striking a sentence out of the staff report?
I think if you don't have that language in there, then you're just saying that they have to meet all the engineering requirements, which is what they've agreed to meet.
But the TE refers to the staff report. So yes, I would say striking that then.
If we don't want to get into amending the staff report.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, excuse me, but my TE does not say anything about the staff report.
Well, it refers to the water division's requirements, and the water division's requirements are what are spelled out in the staff report. So I think if instead we approve it subject to the TEs, except that TE number 1, it's understood the water will not require the 20 feet.
That's what I'm thinking is the better route.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I think we need to do. So somebody make me a motion if that's what we're going to do.
I make a motion then that we approve, but with, we got variance?
Yeah, we have a variance first.
So should I?
Do that.
Okay, well, I make a motion that we approve, which one's the first variance here?
Variance number 4.
Variance
To
number
TE
4.
number 4. I have a motion second to approve variance outlined TE number 4. Cast your votes, please. It is approved. Now.
Did we have a second variance?
No.
Okay.
Now we're going to.
Okay, I'm making sure here. I was confused. I make a motion for approval of the project with amendment to T1 to approve, sorry.
Variance on TE3.
Okay, that's what I thought.
We decided.
There's 2. There's a sidewalk deal and
Yeah.
We decided that they don't need the variance on TE3 because the sidewalks they're providing meet the subdivision regulations. That was the question I asked you.
Right. Okay.
That was the question I asked you.
They would meet the subregs,
Yeah.
sidewalks.
No, whether the sidewalks that they are providing meet the subdivision regulations.
I don't believe they do.
Okay. If staff
That was a no, not a yes.
if staff does not believe they do, then we are respectfully, we are
Okay.
requesting a variance on the
Okay.
sidewalk as well.
So try again, T
Yeah,
number 3.
all right. So I move for approval of variance on T number 3.
I have a motion, second, to approve T number 3, variance. It is approved.
I move approval of the project amending TE1 so that it does not require the 20-foot easement, or sorry, the 20-foot each side easement.
Separation.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion, second, to approve,
Second.
approve item number 15 with an amendment to TE number 1 as indicated. Cast your votes, please. It is approved.
Thank you.
Okay, item 16 is KC 6953, the preliminary plat of Terra Place.
Good afternoon, Tim Johnson with Johnson Associates, here on behalf of the applicant. As you can see on your map in front of you, there's the Rushbrook addition that was, which way's up? Sorry. That is west of this tract of land. This was all part of the old Garth Brooks estate years ago, and this part sold and has been developed. This is the remaining tract that had the 2 houses on it, which we've designed around at this point in time. The property was zoned back in 1997 as R1. We meet the R1 criteria. And I understand we got a note yesterday late and again this morning late that there was a couple of protesters that had submitted information. So I don't know if anybody's here.
Someone has signed up to speak.
Okay. So when they did the Rushbrook addition, a lot of grading, as you can see by this map, a lot of grading was done and lowered that portion. They used the dirt in the other part of the addition. So this piece of the property is higher than their backyards. But we haven't designed anything for the addition yet. We haven't designed the elevation of the street or any elevation of the lot. So we could be just like them. We may need to cut back here as well. I can't answer that today, but I respect their concerns. And but there was one of the comments protesting the zoning, but we've already been zoned R1. And then the other comments and pictures have to do, I think, more with the elevation. There were some comments about drainage, but we're right on the ridge. Everything that we're doing in the street will go through the creek that cuts through the middle of our property on the north. Up here, we've got a common area with a lake in it. So we do agree with all the TEs, but for the record, I would note that had I had a subdivision that had a problem with the 20-foot building setback, I wouldn't mention it. In this case, it works. We can make it work. And so I'm not going to ask you to scratch that line. But it has been problematic. So
Discretion is the better part of valor, they say.
I'd be happy to answer any questions. We do agree with all the TEs.
Does anybody have any specific questions for Mr. Johnson? Shall we have the protestant come and speak to us first? Let's do that. I have someone signed up to speak. I won't even try. Would you come to the front and tell us your name and address, please? Khusro, is it?
My name is Khusro Iqbal. I'm a resident at 801 Northwest 188th. It's just one of those houses. And our concern is only that being that the houses are so high that they're looking into our backyards completely. And even if we have our windows slightly open, the other person can see it. And they're about, the elevation, if I can say it, we have a wall, a retaining wall for that property. It is about 4.5 feet, 4 feet tall. And then there's a fence which we have placed in for our property at that location. So all I'm requesting...
And so is your fence on top of the wall or beside it? I mean,
it sits on the wall practically, like maybe 6 inches behind it. It is on our property line. All I'm requesting is that if there is some kind of easement, and it's only happening also at the houses which are on the south west and south part of it, where it kind of budges like that. So that's where most of the height is increasing. All the houses up on north, they don't have that problem. My concern is that my family lives there. A couple of more families are here as well from 805 and 809. And most of the guys who actually own the houses on that side, they were like, okay, if the properties are going to be that high, we can't even open our windows. It will be really weird. So we want to see if there's any way the builder can look at it and redo a little bit of stuff where it can kind of give us a peace of mind where we don't have to worry about it.
I get that. Anybody have any comments or questions? For Mr. Tell me your last name again.
Iqbal.
Iqbal?
Yes.
Iqbal. If not, do we have comments and questions generally? This gentleman right here, Mr. Tim Johnson, he's going to give you his name and phone number, and you're going to be able to contact him about your concerns regarding the differential in height. This is a preliminary plat, which means it's only the first time we'll look at this. We'll look at this again. So sometime between now and the time they bring it back to us, they'll have done the engineering and assumedly, maybe not the dirt work yet, and to deal with that issue and to address it. And he'll be more than happy to talk to you about it.
Yeah, and I would agree that, I was going to mention, this is the preliminary plat. So once this gets approved, that allows us then to do our design. Once we do our design, I'll be happy to meet with the neighborhood association and discuss what our design is. We may be lowering our property as well. We just don't know yet.
I appreciate that.
And I mean, oddly enough, it's just as weird for the people who are up looking down as it is for the people, I mean, not maybe as, but close. I mean, that's not a good situation for either side, I don't think. You know, to have that kind of privacy invasion, you know. So.
Well, I don't want to get into the whole thing here, but, I mean, is there an expectation always of like single-story development? What if it's a two-story? I mean, suddenly, like, this happens in the urban environment all the time, right? I mean, is there an expectation that your backyard is private?
No.
Anyway,
I mean, 'cause mine's
I don't
not.
think it's
I
an
mean-
issue or whatever. I just think, I don't know.
Well, we often do require people who are in close proximity to do opaque window treatments on the back sides or on sides that are, you know, imposing, if you will, to neighbors. But yeah, I mean, you know, any single-family residential development has the potential for two-story development, and yeah, people see over my back fence all the time, and you know, so that's a thing. But in a situation like this where it can be dealt with,
developers to move windows and those kinds of
Absolutely,
things
yes.
in the process. But
Try to mitigate it.
I've driven by this property I don't know how many times and was all for it until I saw these pictures, man. Tim, you got to do something about how these properties abut those properties.
Like I said,
That's a huge.
Yeah, we'll design
That's
it.
a huge drop. You can't see that from, you know, driving down the street.
Right.
You know, something.
We're aware of
like
it,
that,
and we were involved in, on a property owner on the other side of Rushbrook that had similar conditions when they did the grading. It raised property next to their property up 6 feet. And so they worked with, the developer of that worked with us, and so we intend to work with them.
If you'll give him your number,
will.
I'll move for adoption of application.
wait just a second, let me ask
Oh, I'm
here.
sorry. There's something else?
Is there anybody else who wanted to be heard on this matter today? I actually have, we are on item number 16.
Yes, they are
I
here,
do
but I was just going to speak for them.
Okay.
805 and 809 are
Okay.
here, yes.
All right. Okay, now, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Move for adoption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 16. Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved.
Item 17 is case C-6955, the preliminary plat of Coeur d'Alene.
If for any reason you have a hard time getting a hold of Mr. Johnson, feel free to call me. I know you won't. He'll be very responsive, I'm sure.
Good afternoon, Brad Reed with Craft and Toll, 300 Point Parkway Boulevard, here on behalf of the applicant. This is the preliminary plat for the rezoning that was heard in December. We agreed with the staff TEs, and if you guys have any particular questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I do not. Is there anybody else who wants to be heard on this matter today? Commissioners, do I have comments or questions?
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve item number 17. Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved.
Thank you.
Item 18 was withdrawn. Item 19 is PC 10-522 to rezone 2645 Southwest 25th Street from R1 to O1.
Is the applicant present? Item number 19, PC 10522, 2645 Southwest 25th. Should we put it at the end of the docket and see if they show up?
How about the name? You said the address. Arturo Diaz Mata?
Arturo Diaz Mata? No? Let's do that. Let's push it to the end of the docket.
Item 20 is PC 10-524 to rezone 2127 East Memorial Road from R4 to C3.
Could you give us your name and address for the
Yes,
record, please?
Ray Vaughn. I'm the general manager of Vaughn Development. This is my application.
Could you pull the microphone up? You're very tall.
ma'am.
Thank you. Tell us what it is you're asking for.
Well, this is an undeveloped 1.9 acre tract of property, and it is kind of an orphan at this point. It sits north of property that Vaughn Development also owns, between that property and Memorial Road. So all the property to the south and to the west is also in Vaughn Development title. And it's all Zone C3. And so the request was that if we want to proceed with development of this total tract, we need to go ahead and conform the zoning on the small tract you see there to the C3 zoning. That's our request.
Our staff report indicates that there is a riparian area that in the northwest portion of the site, which of course we can't really deal with on a straight rezoning request. There would be a couple of ways to deal with that, I guess. One would be to separate it out. But let me ask first, is there anybody else who wants to be heard on this matter today? I don't have anyone signed up. Commissioners?
I'm going to make a motion to approve the application.
I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 20. Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved.
Thank you very much.
Item 21 is PC 10-526 to rezone 12100 Southeast 29th Street from AA to O1.
Would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Karen King, 12205 Tuscany Ridge Road.
Would you pull the microphone down a little bit? Thank you. Tell us what it is you're asking for.
I'm asking for the property be rezoned from agriculture to, I'll hold this out, limited office district.
There's a building on the property that's a commercial building, is that right?
There's a building on the property that was originally built by a builder, and he officed out of it, but it was built, I guess, with residential, as if he was living there. It then was sold to another builder who officed out of it, and then it was sold to another company that ran an online business out of it. I actually bought it from them, and I have a real estate office.
Is it your intention to office here? I mean, is that you're going to use it for your own office?
So they just been running hot ever since? I mean, running a business out of it?
It's always been a business for as long as I've known.
Let me ask if there's anybody else present who wants to be heard on this matter. No? Commissioners?
No, I don't have any objection to it. Just kind of curious how it's been, running as a business for so long.
Well, I mean, you know how a builder's office is. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
You know, but the front of it is office technically, and the back of it's warehouse.
If nobody else, I'll move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 21. Would you cast your votes, please? It's approved.
Thank you.
Item 22 is SP 500 to operate a community recreational general use as a golf course at 11340 Surrey Hills Boulevard.
Would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
I'm Claude Seipert at 9700 Russell Drive. And Mike Love and I are the developers in adding 9 holes of golf. And we got this postponed last week because we had a protester. So we're here to try to get it approved. The golf course was approved by Oklahoma City back when we had the fairways at Surrey Hills. We had Phase 1, and we had a preliminary plat of Phase 1 and 2, which was about 70 and 250, about 325 lots. And we developed the 70, the first phase, and sold it out. And we had the golf course, this other 9, we used that to help sell the lots because we're going to put in another 9 holes. So when we got the plat finalized to go through the city with the second phase, had the golf course commingled with the lots around it. Well, the Phase 1 people protested because they thought we were not going to go ahead and build a golf course. So we went ahead and did the work, got it all ready, and the city required us to deed that to the golf course. So we actually had the extra 9 holes approved. We had 18 in play, and this is another 9. And this all happened several years ago. Since then, we've sold all but, we probably have 40 lots remaining. And it's helped us sell the lots because we had the golf course, but we never did put the irrigation in. It's about another $750,000 expense to when you finish out the golf course. We did the dirt work and got it all ready. And so a year ago, we decided to do that because we had told the people we would. Okay. When we got the permit for the cart paths, we found out through the permit office that the zoning was wrong on the golf course. It's zoned R1 instead of, and I don't know what a golf course zoning is, but it's supposed to be zoned different. So we went to the zoning people, JJ and Bob Teener, and the quickest way we could go ahead and open up the golf course would be to get a use permit. And they advised us to do that, and then we go through the process of zoning that land that's under the golf course, rezoning it. And so that's what we were doing when we came in the other day, and we had one protester, and so we attempted to meet with the protesters, and we've talked to them on the phone, but they weren't able to meet with us. So I don't know whether they're here today.
I do have
He's
someone
here.
signed up to speak.
I'm sorry?
I do have someone signed up to speak. We'll
Yes.
see who it is.
Yeah, are they here?
I assume so.
Okay. Well, we're here to answer their. Now, let me tell you what our discussion with them is. There's a couple places on the golf course that it's kind of tight, where you hit the ball, and we are prepared to, if it is too tight, we can plant trees, to protect the houses. we have a big tree planter, and we're intending on planting other trees. And I told the gentleman that we talked to. He was an attorney representing one person, is what I understood.
Well, let's see what they have to say rather than try to
let's
guess,
get
shall we?
Seth Von Tunglen, attorney, 6414 North Santa Fe Avenue, Oklahoma City, Suite A. And I have some handouts to pass around throughout.
Start at that end if you want to.
The three handouts, one of which was attached to the notice, is highlighted in red, so it's a little easier to see than last time when we were here. The second handout is what I understand to be probably a smaller version of what he has on his large board there. Third handout is a list of the homeowners that are living in the strike zone, which is what I'm calling it, and it's highlighted yellow on your green map. And so the hole in question is hole number 8. And hole number 8 runs by this lake that's in the middle of the property, this lovely Oklahoma red lake up there. And the tee boxes are set back next to this road here on the green map that you have. However, there's a safety hazard that's also not drawn in here on this green map that they have. It shows that the tee boxes are not on the opposite side of the road, when in fact that they are on the opposite side of the road, which is the same thing as when you're driving on the second green. And on this red map, it's the one that's further up. There's another tee box that's set across that road, so the pro boxes are going to be back offset on the opposite side of the road. So you're going to tee off if you want to hit from the furthest tees across a road that's traveled by the residents in that area. People that I'm here representing are concerned that on hole number 8, when you get up, because it is a par 4, when you get up there with your driver and you want to tee off from possibly across the road, you're going to give it all you got, and your ball's going to slice, and it's going to go right into their house. Now, the group of people that I am here representing represent to me that whenever they came out, and someone came out, I spoke with Claude on the phone earlier, he disagreed with this, but somebody came out and they had spray painted a general layout, and it appeared at that point in time that it was going to be a par 3. What the homeowners are requesting is that this be a par 3 and not a par 4. This isn't going to be a PGA event. It doesn't need to be one of the most difficult hole on the 9-hole golf course. This measurement between the lake on the red piece of paper, the lake, and the homes that are further north is about 50 feet. It doesn't give a lot of room, so you're going to want to try to really finesse your ball.
Can I stop you just for a second?
Yes.
JJ, would you just answer for me, before we get too far out on this limb, is this something that is within our purview to decide on the design of the golf course itself?
Well, I believe...
I realize it's a special permit, so we have, some ability to, tell me, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, this is a special permit, so the Planning Commission can suggest conditions that council could adopt as a part of the ordinance adopting the special permit.
Okay.
And those special conditions could be whether a hole is a par 3 or a par 4? Do you think we can get that specific?
Subject to the applicant agreeing to that, yes.
Okay. All right.
What if the applicant doesn't agree to that?
Then you would vote the application up or down on its face.
Okay, good.
Okay.
And so when we were here December 14th, they had withdrawn it so that we could have a discussion and meet and talk about this. Unfortunately, Christmas and New Year's and different things got in the way. They did reach out to us. I believe Michael Love reached out to me on Monday, and I think that he may have called Mr. Heffron, Tom Heffron, on Friday of last week to reach out to try to set up a meeting before today so that the concerned homeowners could have a face-to-face with the developers. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. Ultimately, what the group would like to happen today that I represent is, I see that there's another meeting in 2 weeks. If we could even just withdraw or continue this for the 2 weeks so that we can schedule that meeting to see if we can come up with a resolution between the two, I think that would be the most advantageous as we're here right now. If not...
Well, let's start there. Mr. Seifert, would you be willing to continue this matter 2 weeks?
Could I ask you a question? Who did he represent at the last meeting when he was here?
I'm not at all sure.
I was told by Mike, my partner...
I'll say further, I'm not at all sure it matters.
You don't think it matters?
He's here today representing people who are opposed. My question to you is, are you willing to take another 2 weeks to meet with them?
We had a speakerphone on yesterday, and we asked him if we could meet with him, and we haven't been able to. He may not want to meet with us next week.
Do you think you could find time the next 2 weeks to meet?
Let me tell you something. We don't know who we're, according to what Mike told me, and you need to correct him if he's wrong, that he said he represented his cousin last week and told us where, and we went over that with him with the map on the phone, and his cousin's house is no way in danger, and he admitted that. But he told us on the phone yesterday, that's the first time we'd heard this, oh, I have several other people now that I'm representing. So what worries me is he may come up next week, go over to another hole in there and find something he doesn't like and say, and start talking to the people up and down the street and get another protest. I don't know how far he can take this. If I always thought, I used to come to the Planning Commission a lot. I'm getting a little old, I don't do it anymore. But anyway, I thought that when you had a representative here on that first advertisement, I thought that you had to be here that first day or have a rep here. And I don't think he had talked to these other people last couple of weeks ago.
I don't think our rules are quite that stringent.
So
I would repeat my question to you. Would you be willing to take 2 weeks and meet with Mr. Van
Tungelen.
Ma'am, let me tell you something. The reason we applied for a special use permit is so we could go ahead and open the golf course, because we have players. If the wind and the weather stays bad, we won't need to. But if it turns off pretty, we'd like to play on the golf course. So that, it's just another expense of coming down here, and I told him on the phone that if some of these people, a couple of these people that he have on the list, I built 2 of the houses, and I know the people, and I've talked to them before. One of them called me. Her neighbor put a storage building out while we were out there working. Wait just a minute, let me tell you.
That's really neither here nor there with respect to what we're here to decide today.
Okay, what'd you say?
My question is whether you're willing to continue the matter 2 weeks
I don't want
and
to do
meet
that.
with the applicant.
I don't want
Or
to
the
continue.
protestants, I'm sorry.
Okay. I was going to tell you what I will do. I will talk to the people in there, and if they will tell me where they want a tree, or I've got a large tree planter, I can protect their houses, but most people don't want to hide their house from the golf course. But if they want a large tree in there, we've put some trees out, and we can, if they're afraid of the golf balls.
So what I'm hearing you say is no, you're not willing to continue the case.
I would rather not come back down here I don't think it'll be any different. This is his deal. He's working this. He started out with a cousin, now he's got 6 people.
We're not here to disparage the motives of people who come down here to protest these matters. If you're not willing to meet, you'd rather have an up or down vote and risk the possibility of a denial rather than take a continuance to meet with the applicant or the protestants, that's fine. That's your prerogative. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I need to talk to my partner. I really don't think it'll make any difference. We have tried to meet with him, and he didn't want to meet. If he'd had the people, he said that they were having a meeting one night, and he didn't want us there.
Let me ask him, can you make a commitment to meet in the next 2 weeks?
Absolutely, otherwise I wouldn't have offered it.
Well, didn't he make a commitment last meeting? That he told y'all last time that he would meet with us, and we called him 3 times to try to meet.
Well, the holidays, it's tough, you know.
I don't know, Mike, you want to meet with him? Where'd he go?
He's on the front row.
Hey, what do you think?
I think we'll try it one more time. 2 weeks.
I don't think it's right, though. I think you should, after you advertise.
Well, I'm not going to twist your arm if you'd rather have a vote.
No, I'm just talking about the operations of the city. I thought that y'all put out that advertisement and you had to either be here or have a rep.
It's not that carved in stone.
Okay, these are new people that he's bringing in. So.
And these are not new people.
We don't care about that. Do I have a motion to continue this matter for 2 weeks?
Motion to continue.
Second. A motion is second to continue this matter for 2 weeks. I assume that you will both make time in your schedule to meet within those 2 weeks.
Yes, we will.
And you might want to be able to tell us next time you're here who it is you're representing.
Well, and that's one of the handouts today, so I will. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, did we vote? It is continued. It is continued. 2 weeks.
I will say, though, being the commissioner in Ward 1, I'm not going to entertain another continuance on this. And frankly, for your clients, if you live on a golf course, you got to expect to get hit with a ball. So I'm not in golf course design. Just as fair warning on my position on this case.
I will make another comment in that regard, and I lived on a golf course and went to the effort of putting in plexiglass windows. So there are some things that can be done to protect your property. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Moving on to item 23, C6963, the final plat of Belmont Point Commercial.
Good afternoon, Mark Grubbs, 1819 South Morgan Road, on behalf of the applicant. You have a final plat before you. I agree with TEs 2 and 3, except for one has the same 20-foot setback comment. I really don't know that I can agree to that at this time because we don't know what's going to go in there. It's a commercial plat, so this is coming back for special site plan or specific site plan. So, and that's the best I can do on that. So I would just ask that that be stricken, and I deal with that at a later time.
Well, those are kind of two different things. Could we live with dealing with it at a later time? We can do that, I think, rather than...
I've already told Nathan that we need to meet on this, and we're going to meet on this. Something needs to be worked out. But to agree to it right now, and I don't know where a building's going to go, and if he holds my building permit hostage because I agreed to it, I just can't do that.
No, I understand what you're saying perfectly.
Nathan's still here.
And I think...
You want to speak on this one?
He did nod. So I think that rather than simply say that they're not going to, what we're saying is that they're going to deal with it at a later time. And is there anyone else who wants to be heard on this matter today?
Wait, so how are we going to deal with this on this application? I'm sorry.
I think on this application, we deal with it the same way we dealt with it on the last one, that we're going to amend TE number 1 to eliminate to...
HC7, common HC7 of the staff.
The setback thing. So just to go back to the first matter that brought this up, shouldn't we do the same thing for them? I mean, David's matter, I'm not to kind of mix these two up, but we kicked him out a month. It doesn't seem like and since then we've done 2 accommodations. I'm just saying.
And has he complained?
Yes, he has.
David Box, not here on behalf of the applicant.
here on behalf of the applicant for application 4. We would love that, to be able to have the same treatment that the applications that have followed have received. So if I can avoid coming back in a month, I'll be here anyways.
Will you be coming back to us with a specific plan on yours when we could address it at a later time, which is what Mr. Grubbs is suggesting?
No, but I don't think the other one, not this one, but the other one didn't either, to my knowledge, that Mr. Haynes and Mr. McCowan were on. So I don't know where the distinction would lie.
I thought.
They're not coming back for a specific plan on that other one.
I'm confused about that. Well, no, because it was a
But we should take care of Mark first, but noting David's suggestion, that doesn't seem...
I think David may have missed his chance, but we'll talk about it more in a minute. I think what we would do is amend TE number 1 to limit the...
Just strike it. Just strike that one provision.
Strike that one provision. Okay.
Correct.
Well, no,
You're striking a lot.
do it the way we did it the last time.
I understand, but we're going to try to clean this up. Third time's a charm. So if we just strike, he's actually got 2. You didn't bring up the other one, which is 8A6, which also says no structures within 20 feet.
Of the sanitary sewer.
Correct.
And, yeah, and that would need to be stricken as well. It's the same comment.
TE number 1, next step.
Striking it is not the same thing as saying we're going to deal with it at a later time.
Yeah, we need to amend the TE.
What he asked for.
Okay.
Yeah, with the 20 feet.
So I think that would be the amendment.
We have a motion from Mr. LaForge.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve it, subject to the TEs, except that TE number 1, the Water Division will not require whichever sections those 2 are. What are the numbers? I'll follow it.
8A6.
Yeah.
A second.
In the staff, as set out in the staff report.
Correct.
Second.
Share that with everybody.
This is what's known in the courtroom as a sidebar, so we'll just give him a minute. Curtis, did you have something you wanted to tell us?
Curtis Liggins with Public Works. If you strike the entire statement, it says all the engineering requirements.
Yeah, that's not what we want to do.
Okay, so, and then I believe the director of the department can vary the requirement. As Nathan did, spoke about downtown is different, the line is in the middle of the street. So we can work with them to a certain degree, but in this case, it has its own particulars. We've had claims where I'm sure legal can recite where the roofs have been torn off of houses by water lines that ruptured and their house flooded. And I've seen people crying about their, possessions and so. But so, if he wants to continue and meet with us and we talk about it, but
We've agreed to meet with staff and discuss this further. But as discussed earlier, it's buried within there, and I can't agree to that setback at this time. This particular case comes back before you on a specific site plan.
And so,
but I'll leave it at that. I need to move this plat forward. So.
Rather than vary the TE by eliminating the requirement, how about if we amend the TE by indicating that it will be dealt with at specific plan stage, which is what he's offered to do. I think that gives us the opportunity to deal with it if it is particularly necessary in this case, gives you the opportunity to talk to staff about how it's going to be engineered when you get to that point. So how's that?
That's fine on this particular instance.
You want to refer to
That
those two
sounds much better.
specific conditions? You want to refer to those two specific conditions, the 20 feet, those two sections that Rusty
Yes.
cited?
Okay,
All right.
Mike, you do it.
I mean, and
Yeah.
Nathan's
No, Rusty's got
already,
it.
with all due respect
Okay.
on,
Yeah.
Nathan's already agreed. I try to work these things out prior to, so that we're not discussing this with you. And he's already agreed with the 10 feet on the sanitary sewer. So I have that in email, and that's fine. But the water, I just can't agree to it right now.
I get that, so.
So I would accept an amendment to the motion and not say that that Water Division will not enforce those two, it's that they will discuss them later
And we'll deal with it at specific plan stage.
at the specific
Right.
plan stage. That'll work.
Do I have a
Second.
second? I have a motion and a second to approve item 23 with amendment to TE number 1 as discussed. Cindy, so it's on you. Cast your votes, please. It's approved.
Okay. Item 24 is C6962, the final plat of Summit Ridge, Section 5.
What you have for you today on this is a replat of an existing subdivision that has not developed out. There's a small portion of it that's built. My client has bought the remainder of it. The yellow portion is what is currently constructed on this, and then my client bought what I'm outlining with my finger here. Within that existing, there's currently 49 units permitted. We are proposing, with the replat, this is zoned R4, so they're looking at developing duplexes, but within that, we have replatted it to plat a lot less lots, but still 46 units, less than the 49 that is currently there. And the reason I bring this up is just, Fire made comment that they oppose this, but there's actually only, there's less than 30 lots within this single access point, and then we have private drives all the way around this as a secondary access point that they can access that from. So we're actually reducing the density on this. We agree to the TEs and would ask for your approval on this. I do need a variance on number 2 because, well, it says relating to the number of lots served by a single entrance. There's actually less than 30 lots on a single entrance, so I really don't know that we need the variance bringing that up. So,
And
JJ is JJ.
I did have a question about that. Is it because they're duplex lots, somehow, is it really a unit thing?
Zoning
rather than
doesn't say units, though, it says lots, and that's why I wonder why this variance is here, but JJ is not here right this second, so. But anyway, there's less than 30 lots on that single, because everything, let me hold this back up. All these lots are on Summit Ridge, so we're only talking about all the lots within inside this. So there's less than 30 lots inside of there.
And so, is that requirement a fire thing? Is that the nature of
That's part of the subregs. The
Is that
30
the
lots,
nature
the
of the
30 lots on the
regulation
single
that it's-
entrance.
Yeah.
But Fire made a comment on it. We're actually reducing density as is currently permitted in that area. So I don't know if we actually need the variance, but you can vote on it in case we do, I guess.
Well,
While
there's only
JJ is
26
coming
lots.
back, can I ask a question, Mark?
Yes.
Related to common areas? Is there any common area in there?
There's no current common areas, and it's not required. It's less than 10 acres. I believe that was comment staff made in the report as well. And there's no
Would that include?
I'm sorry. There is a small common area that's platted in there. But there's not existing any.
Let me ask, is there anybody else here today who wants to be heard on this matter? No? Well, the easy thing to do, I guess, is to approve the variance. And then you'll have it if you need it.
Right.
So do I have a motion? Ah, JJ, just in time. The question is whether they really, in fact, need the variance because the lots to be served by the single entrance are really less than 30, is that right?
He clarified that for me. So we have the big lots that are from this point, which are less than 30, but your existing plat has the smaller lots, which is in the excess of 30. I apologize for that.
Okay.
So we do need the variance.
So, and then my question, just as a point of interest, was, is this the nature of this requirement having to do with fire suppression and control? And is it lots on purpose, or is it really intended to mean units, but it just doesn't say that? Or because these are duplex lots, so they're actually twice as many units.
Based on the lots, and it's for fire safety.
And it is a fire safety thing.
Emergency
Okay. Okay. Commissioners?
I move the variance.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the variance, TE number 2. Cast your votes, please. It is approved.
Move the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 24. Cast your votes, please.
Thank you. And just for the record, that same comment's on this, but I did not say anything about it because it doesn't make a difference on this one, okay?
I appreciate that. Okay. Do we need to stop and deal with Mr. Box? Are you going to be here for a while, or
I will, but
do you have other things on the agenda?
item 32.
Well, then we'll get back to you.
I can't think of anything I'd rather do on a Thursday afternoon than spend it here.
Yeah, we'll get back to you then.
Okay, item 25 is case C-6960, the final plat of Bison Creek, Section 1.
Good afternoon. Kendall Dillon with Crafton Toll, representing the applicant, and this is obviously a final plat with 72 lots. It's almost a carbon copy of the approved preliminary plat, with the exception of, because of some topographic constraints with the fall from Mustang Road to the east, we had to move the entrance to the south. That's basically the only change. Otherwise, everything else is like the preliminary plat. We have 4 TEs. 2 of them are variances. Obviously, Section 5.2.8E of your subdivision regulations allow you all to grant variances, especially in projects such as this, where there's narrow frontage and topographic constraints. So in this case, there's about 10 to 12 feet of fall from Mustang Road to that street immediately to the east. And then the gap that you see going through the middle is a 100-foot Oklahoma City sanitary sewer easement with a large interceptor in it. And then obviously we have floodplain to the east. So it definitely has several constraints. And because of that, the cul-de-sac that goes to the north is 800 feet. So it's a small variance, but it's 100 feet longer than what your subdivision regulations allow. And then also the number of lots on that, instead of 30, there's 31, so we exceed it by 1. So we would respectfully ask for variances on those 2 TEs. And then in regards to the other hot topic of discussion today, the same TE appears in our staff report. Based upon my discussion with Nathan a little bit ago, I don't really think that it applies to me in this case. I'm going to just agree to the TEs, and with good faith that, just like we always have, that the engineering department will continue to work with us and on the plan review, and it'll be a reasonable solution. So with that, would ask for your approval.
Let me ask, is there anyone else here today who wishes to be heard on this item? No? Commissioners?
I'll move the variance to TE5 if there's no further comments. Excuse me, TE2. I added one, TE2.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the variance to TE number 2. Would you cast your votes, please? It's approved.
Move the variance to TE 3.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the variance to TE number 3. It's not exactly the right way to say that, is it? The TE identified in the, whatever, the variance identified in TE number 3. Cast your votes, please.
Then I will move the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 25. Cast your votes, please.
Thank you.
And item 26 is case PV 102. It's to vacate a portion of the final plat of Doe Crossing.
Is the applicant present? Item number 26, PV 102. Meat Construction? No? Shall we push this one to the end of the docket as well, see how far we get?
Item 27 is case PC 10-518 to rezone 10-220 South Sunny Lane Road from AA to I-1.
Hello. My name is Nawaz. I'm requesting the rezoning to I-1 Light Industrial District.
Tell us what it is you want to do with this property.
Just recently purchased this property. I was trying to rezone it. I consulted with the city of Oklahoma City, and they said it's surrounded by industrial, so I can request for I-2, or then maybe I-2 will be far stretched, so they said, okay, maybe go for I-1 Light Industrial, so that is what I'm requesting it. Because right across from the street, there's a Oklahoma Museum of Osteology, and if you look at the map there, I'm surrounded by SPART 538, I-2, I-1 all across. So
Let me ask, is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this matter today? Bless your heart. Commissioners?
I had a question on staff's recommendation. For the west 300 feet, what exactly is that? JJ?
Yes, we were fine with the I-1 zoning. We were concerned with the depth that it extended east from Sunny Lane. If you look to the north, basically the depth has been kept to about 300 feet. So we were requesting that we approve the west 300 feet and delete the balance, leaving it at AA.
I'm sorry.
Do you agree with that?
Do you have a problem with that?
Not really. I mean, this is the first time I'm doing the zoning.
Okay,
So
you see where that line is, where it says garage there, right above there?
yeah.
Okay, that's kind of the area that is that what you're suggesting, JJ, just to continue that garage line? Maybe it would help.
I thought maybe it was to protect the riparian area.
Do you know how much that will be?
300 feet.
200.
Yes. Is that all right with you?
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, with that, I'll move for approval with those conditions.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to approve item number 27, limiting the rezoning request to the westernmost 300 feet
Yes.
of the tract. Would you cast your votes, please?
Right, that we're only rezoning the
Right.
west. Yes.
Right.
Will it be rezoning the east, right?
Not the east, just the west. The east will be AA. We want to be sure you understand that.
Just rezone the west 300 feet, the strip along Sunny Lane Road.
Yeah, that is what's going to be rezoned.
Yeah, we're okay? We're all on the same page? And it is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Get better.
Item 28 is PUD 1663 to rezone 11900 North Coltrane Avenue from PUD 58A to PUD 1663.
Good afternoon, Brad Reed with Craft and Toll. Here after we took a continuance last month, we did meet with the HOA, 3 members of the HOA from the homeowners that were here last time to protest. I believe we've come to an agreement on the crash gate, allowing us to tie into that existing drive. It'll give us our second point of access. It also gives them second point of access. They're here as well. They can speak on that. But there was some comments that were on the staff report and the TEs. We agree to those. There was also 9.9. There was some parking that was brought up last time. It says 1 parking. We agreed to take that out. It wasn't in the TEs, but that was talked about last time, and we still agree with that.
Do you agree with the other TEs?
Yes, sir.
Move for adoption. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, that's okay. I do have folks who are signed up here to speak. I'm sorry, I don't find the name. Woodland Hills Homeowners Association representatives, I guess. Would you give us your names and addresses, please?
Catherine Zeese. I live at 12100 Woodland Hills Drive. That's Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
And?
Frances Henry, 12316. I don't know what my address is. Woodland Hills Drive.
So you had an opportunity to meet with the applicant. Were you able to reach an agreement?
Well, number one, we want to say that we're not opposed to this going in. We're fine with it going in. We just out of respect, we want to make some changes out of respect to the area, art area. And we had an idea of flipping the plans, so that way there was a 2-story building that was going to butt right up maybe 10 feet from someone's backyard. And if we could flip the plans to where it would be the same plan, but it would be flipped, and then the 2-story building would be up against it would be on the south side, and that's a wooded area. So anyway, and there's a couple of points on that. Most people probably don't want to look and see somebody's house when they open up the window. They'd probably rather see a wooded area. And I also have small children. I don't want someone just looking right into the yard if it's possible to change that.
Did you discuss these items with them?
Yes. Yeah, we tried. Yeah, we asked about it, but the developer's the one that has to make the changes, so I have no idea if anything's been done.
And so where are we on this?
So there was some discussion on the 2 stories. It's on the block 3. It's up the very north section. And due to the size requirements that they're trying to get, they're trying to basically come with a decent-sized duplex for these. And so they were not in agreement with limiting the 1 story on those. They did agree to a 6-foot stockade fence along the entire north section to abut their entire addition, and that was the agreement that they could come.
Did we talk about flipping the
I'm not sure what
design of?
I'm not sure what they're referring to on that.
We talked about whether you mentioned that you could probably flip the plans to make the 2 stories on the south side facing the wooded area, and you were supposed to get with the
So that was it wasn't, they don't want to limit themselves on who would be able to build on those, so that they don't want to put a limitation on the height of those to 1 story.
And are those 2 things the same thing, or I'm not quite understanding?
I'm saying that now his developer does not want to.
They do not want to.
They don't want to move the 2 stories to the opposite side.
I'm not sure that we ever had intended on any 1 stories, honestly. I'm not sure. That might have been a miscommunication on my part, but.
Well, the other thing is the resale value on my home, which I would eventually like to sell, is somebody comes in and sees the home and then goes to the backyard and sees this huge building looking right there into the backyard. It's kind of an eyesore. People are not going to want that. They want privacy. So, and even if the windows were just on the side, that might even help. I would be willing to go with that, but the whole building itself is really
I'm
just
sure,
right
I'm
up
sure
against
you
windows.
all heard the discussion earlier about two-story homes, and even single-family residential areas have them, and people can look down into other people's backyards, and that's just a thing. Would you be willing to put opaque or beveled or treated glass in your second-story windows where they overlook the backyards of the development next door?
I'm on the planning side of this, so I'll let the developer speak on that.
And unfortunately, we deal with this all the time, and I'm also a lawyer, and I deal with it in litigation where somebody builds next door and says they can look into my backyard, and it's the reality. If you own a lot and you're not in the middle by yourself, my neighbor can see in my backyard. Am I happy about it? No, but almost every neighbor can see, and those are just unfortunately the realities.
I understand that, but the question to you is, would you be willing to do something to mitigate it?
No, because they could.
And that's an
yes,
answer.
thank you.
Okay?
Let's vote.
Because what we thought was if we were agreeing
I do-
to put the gate in there to block that off, that they were talking about putting the 2 stories on the south side, which they would be on the wooded area.
It's just a matter.
It's not like we want to stop progress.
No. We
had agreed to solve their problem.
So it was your understanding that you were giving in order to get something back, and that seems like a reasonable expectation.
I apologize, I think that the backyard views, that's an issue to be dealt with for you. I think you have to plant privacy trees if that's what you want. I have a different question, though. What are the size of your drives? How wide are those?
The size of the drives would be, they're 2-car garages. So the drive,
two cars?
Yes, two cars. There is on there, one of them says 1 car. That's an incorrect statement on the plan that's in there. There's 2-car garages, so it would be, there's 36 feet, I'm sure, I think.
It's my understanding that there is a maximum width of drives of 30.
Okay.
So
I'm not sure on that. I'll have to look at that, because we do duplexes a lot, and this is a pretty standard plan that we used on the drives. I'll have to...
Well, I asked the planning department beforehand, and they gave me a piece of paper that says on duplexes specifically, it is 30 feet.
Well, if that's the maximum, we can agree to that.
Okay, that's what I would like.
Yeah,
to agree to 30 feet.
That's the standard, then yeah, we'll agree to 30 feet.
That might limit your garages.
Is that 30 feet abutting the road?
Looks like JJ's got some.
Mac, the approach would be 30 feet. Once you cross the property line, it could widen out, but the approach at the street is a maximum of 30 feet.
Well, in that case, wouldn't we typically treat that as like a entry drive into a site like a two-way, which would be at 24 feet? Because typically, if we're doing...
If you could turn around and come back out.
You can't turn around and come back out in the duplex drive. You don't.
I hate curb cuts are a big deal to me. I think the larger the curb cut, the worse the development. And so typically on these drives, I like to see us, if we're going to say, hey, let's keep it down and let's widen it out, I'd prefer we go even smaller.
We could stick to the 30 feet. I think that, like I said, I've never seen an issue on how these are constructed before, so I'm not aware of that, but we'll stick with whatever the code says.
Okay.
The questions that I had with respect to this application when I was reviewing it had to do with your circulation. Why do we have this hammerhead rather than reconnection to whatever this street is? I don't have my...
Coltrane, the arterial street?
No. The Woodland Hills Drive. Why don't you reconnect there? Why is there the hammerhead?
I think if we reconnect, we would connect back into their part of the drive there. If we connected back at the top.
Oh, and that was our discussion before. This
Yes,
was
because
this
it's
was
private
the
property.
And we would
improvement that you all
we agreed
have
to
done.
fence that side of that. We can't connect back into Coltrane due to the frontage that we have. We don't have enough frontage to do 2 connections onto an arterial street.
Okay. Okay.
And that's why we agreed to giving them a crash gate, so then that way they could have as many as they wanted there.
If they didn't put the 2 stories, I thought that was the agreement.
Yeah.
And if they're not going to do that, then we're going to allow them to have their ingress and egress through our property. We are
But-
private property.
and-
That was going to be Woodland Hills Phase 2, which would have continued another HOA, which they would pay dues to the whole
Oh,
association.
my gosh.
And like, there was mentioned last week that we shouldn't have to solve their problem of 2 entrance and exits.
If we put a brick wall there, they only have 1 entrance, and so they're in violation. They need that. That is their second access point. Just
Well,
like
and I think in any event, we would require that.
I'm remembering this one from now when they were here before. I knew I recognized you guys. Their grandfathered in, or whatever you would call it. They didn't have the requirement to have another entrance.
I'm not sure about how it was constructed, but I think the intention was that, like she said, this was a platted, like a preliminary plat had a connection that cut through.
A stub.
The stub connected all the way throughout to Coltrane to give them that second point at some point.
But they were not required to do that, was what we said the last time they were here. I remember as you were leaving saying, I hope you don't come back here and say their access is going to be your second entry point, because it's not their problem that you only have 1. And I do remember that discussion now, because they don't have to do that as far as we were advised last time they were here.
And that was just a guess. We didn't know. They were done in 1983. We don't have no idea. But based on my own legal research, I believe that they have to have 2 points of access. But there was no definitive statement that they only have to have 1 point of access.
Yeah, there was,
We have
when we were here, I remember asking, does
we
the
have
staff
other
remember
ones.
I asked if they had to, and someone answered, no, they don't, because of when it was established. Staff remember who answered that?
JJ?
I'll ask again then. Do they have to have it?
The question is,
Does the development to the north, who they represent, they apparently only have 1 access point right now. Are they in violation of something for only having 1 access point? Is there something that would require them to agree to this crash gate that they otherwise were going to agree to?
No, not at all.
I didn't think so. Okay, we were told they did not have, staff advised us they don't have to have that because of the time it was established. And, yeah.
The crash gate's on our property.
Right, but they can put up a brick wall there if they would like.
They can.
And then you would not have your second entry point.
And we would deal with that with litigation. I mean, I'll deal with that in civil
See,
courts.
and I don't have a problem with
that's-
anything that they're doing except for, I mean, we want to work with them, and it seems like they're just saying, no, sorry, we're not going to change anything. And I don't understand why.
And initially, our plan didn't have a crash gate. We agreed to put up a crash gate. We agreed to put up a fence. When we met, there was never this give and take. We discussed it all, and then they had a couple extra questions that we tried to address. But, and it is what it is, but
well, I think it's pretty obvious that there wasn't any give and take. I'm not sure that was the intention when you left here. Mike, did you have something you needed to tell us about this?
Mike Wilson with the Fire Marshal's Office. I did just want to say that we do want the second access, a crash gate, what they call it, but it's a Knox lock. So we can unlock that gate and get either way, whether it be from the existing neighborhood into the new neighborhood or vice versa. So we would want that connection, and at least, even if it weren't going to be just totally open, at least have the gate on it.
And I do remember the discussion. I remember you prefer it, and on this new application, we can require it, but on their existing area, we cannot. It exists, so we can't require it. You prefer it, but we
Can't really require it unless we could go back and research that plat when it was done and see what was required at that time and see if it never got put in the way it was supposed to. But we have a lot of older plats that are done that way that don't meet the requirements of today's code.
How far apart would your, the hammerhead drive that seems to be such an issue, how far apart would that be from your existing drive, the drive you've proposed on your plat?
So we have a total of 530 feet of frontage, with roughly 113 feet, so about a little over 400 feet. I think you're required to have 500.
Doesn't that satisfy the requirement? Couldn't you put a point of access there?
I think you have to have 500.
Is it 500?
I believe.
Or is it 300?
For a second point across the front? I believe it's 500.
500?
Yes.
Well, where are we?
I did have a
Commissioners?
question, if I could. May I ask him why he won't try to work with us? I don't want to go to court. We're not angry. We are just asking, just a respectful, can we talk about this and maybe try to come up with something?
And I feel like we have worked. Apparently it's not conveyed that way, but initially there was no crash gate there. They came in and ejected and said, hey, it's a private road. That was the discussion, is they're a private road. They don't want us on their roads. We said, great, we will put up a crash gate. Then they asked for a fence for privacy all along the north wall. We said, great, we will put a fence, that entire stockade fence, and that's what we did. And then they said, well, now we don't want you to see in our backyards. And unfortunately, you just can't do that. That's the reality of building, is people can see into people's homes. I get it. But on that, that's the reality of it. So we have, the two things we did was we said we would put the crash gate up, which gives them access and us access, and we put up the stockade fence.
Well, as you heard me indicate earlier, there are times when people do things to mitigate that privacy intrusion. They do opaque windows or treated glass windows so that there is not that visibility. That's one way that can be dealt with it on the second story. It's not like it's an impossible problem to solve.
No, and that'll be up to the individual homeowner that buys it, however they want to deal with it. They may not want to look there, they may want to put trees. I don't know what they're going to do. But from a development standpoint, it's going to be up to the individual homeowners how they want to deal with it.
Commissioners?
I'm sorry, I'm sympathetic. My neighbor can see in my backyard. That has no effect on me in this application at all. I'm just being honest. If we need a variance to get away from 2 points of access to allow a development in a really tight area to move forward, then so be it. But the only other place they can get access to try and make this little parcel work is not, they'd need a variance for that too, right? So they're going to have a variance either way if we want to move forward.
Please address your comments to the chair and not to the applicant.
So I'm understanding that they're going to just sell the lots and then build to what the owner, when someone buys that lot, build to their specifications. Why couldn't there be variance or whatever of where, well, it's fine to build, but it has to have the opaque windows. It's simple to me.
It just seems like it avoids a lot of issues. My first question was, I don't understand why he doesn't want to try to work with us.
Are you guys opposed to creating a second point of access at the Hammerhead dead end? Are you guys opposed to that?
No, we're not. If we could get the variance for the access length, we can make the Hammerhead work.
To me, that is the lesser of the two evils in this instance, right? Because fire's objection is that they want 2 points of ingress and egress. So the only way to solve it is to just vary that from the distance of 500 to, and you're saying you've got 300,
It's 400 feet, I believe, something like that.
That's a big variance. I mean,
So
100 feet.
procedurally, what would be required to make that happen? JJ? Procedurally, what would be required to make that happen?
It would require a variance to the separation of the access points.
Can we just decide that today without any notice, or?
We may want to hear from traffic, because I think they go out and do an evaluation about site distance, and they make a recommendation.
Well, that would require renoticing, right? Wouldn't that require a separate notice?
No, I don't think so. If it's a continuance, to give them time to look at that and make a recommendation to you on whether or not they would recommend the variance.
Is that a variance to the subdivision regulations or what? I mean, if that is...
Separation requirements.
Continue.
We're not sure.
Yeah,
is
I think
the
at least
answer.
take 2 weeks.
Okay. Is that where we are?
Unless somebody else has another idea, and the applicant's not opposed.
What I'm getting, though,
You
is
guys want to
that
vote, or do you want to continue it 2 weeks to have traffic look at this? We need to cut through. This application is taking way too much of the citizens of Oklahoma City's time.
I'm afraid that the problem with 2 stories is still going to be there.
The problem with 2 stories, for whatever that is not a problem for me. I can't speak for other people. That is not a problem for me. That's a reality of your development. But the 2 points of access requires a variance, if I'm understanding staff correctly, and that is a problem.
Okay. We can take a 2-week continuance to evaluate the second point of access onto Coltrane.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue item number 28. Would you cast your votes, please? It's continued.
29 is a companion item.
Then item 29 is the C-6948, the preliminary plat of Oakdale Gardens.
Continue.
I have a motion and a second to continue item number 29 for the same length of time and for the same reason. Would you cast your votes, please? It is continued.
Item 30 is SPUD 1019 to rezone 2828 Northwest 30th Street from R1 to SPUD 1019.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, just because it's you, I'll wait another minute or two to take a break. Give us your name and address for the record, please.
Phil Fitzgerald, 3900 North Santa Fe. I'm here representing Dental Depot. Dental Depot is getting ready to build a new corporate office at 30th and May in the old church there that's next to Northwest Classen High School. We're in agreement with the TEs, except with a couple of minor exceptions. Question one is there's an existing sign there that we were going to, says TE is going to maintain. We'd like to actually move it to the corner and make it diagonal and landscape it, put a brick column around it and make it attractive. The other question was number 6, where they were saying site-proof screening against any residential use, and we're not adjacent to any residential use, so I think it's superfluous for that, TE. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
I think you are technically adjacent to a residential use.
Because
Which is
It's not a house, but it's a residentially zoned piece of property.
the school.
Yeah.
So right now, there's quite a bit of trees there, and that's where the kids go, do things they probably shouldn't be doing. And so our only concern there is just, making it safe for everybody.
I think that's a distinction between the use of the word use and the use of the word zoning. So in this case, I think it is not a residential use, and I think that's fine. Although I think we could leave the TE, it just doesn't affect you. I did meet with the applicant. We were able to agree that we would eliminate lodging and accommodations, commercial lodging, and funeral interment services undertaking from the list of permitted uses. They are in agreement with the TEs. Other than that, and I think they've done. This is going to be a wonderful addition to this area. The church has sat vacant for a long time, and I think it has been a source of real anxiety to the neighborhoods surrounding it. May Avenue, as you know, is May Avenue. But with the improvements that have been made to the school itself and Taft Stadium and so forth. I think this is just another step in the right direction, maybe get this area cleaned up and turned around, and I'm very supportive of this application, so.
We've also met with 2 neighborhood associations, and they're both in favor of it.
The one other thing that I had concern about in my own mind was just the points of access between this site and the school district, but I spoke with people at the school district, and they're very comfortable. They weren't even aware that the egress onto May Avenue was not on their property. It's actually on the applicant's property, and so they're very willing to work with them and feel confident that they can reach whatever accommodations they need to address security issues, if any. So I'll take a motion.
Because nobody else wants this.
Oh, is there anybody else? We didn't have any protest identified on this case at all, but no, I don't think so.
I'll make a motion to approve the application subject to the TEs with the amended uses.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 30 as modified per the discussion. You cast your votes, please. It is approved.
Item number 31 is SPUD 1021 to rezone 7202 South I-35 Service Road from I-2 to SPUD 1021.
My name is Gary Jones. I am chairman of the KIP board. My address is 6000 Southeast 85th Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The request is to rezone this particular area in order to allow for a middle school to be built in the current facility, which was Western Heritage College.
I think this is a great reuse project. I note that the staff report is silent, and staff indicates that the application actually was silent on the issue of EMD signage. Is that right? Am I on the right page? Yes. Do you need EMD signage for this facility?
No, we do not. The actual signage will occur on the building itself. Truthfully, there's very little modification that's going to be occurring with the facility, since it already was an educational facility. Pretty much everything that is needed is there except for modifications of the rooms.
And given just where it is, are you comfortable with your pedestrian access? Is that going to work for you at this site?
Yeah, one of the things that is a long-term goal for that area is that, especially among charter schools, is to make that a potential education center. Santa Fe South is there. We're there. Dove's going to be there. There's some potential for another charter entity to be located in the Plaza Mayer area. So we're excited that there's a shift that is going to occur. Talking to actually law enforcement, there was some concerns with the hotel was there, but they're starting to clean up that particular area. So overall, we are pretty optimistic and feel good about the location.
Great. Okay. Is there anybody else here today who wants to be heard on this matter? No? Commissioners?
I'll make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 31. Would you cast your votes, please? And it is approved.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to take 10 minutes here. I think we've still got a ways to go, and I think everybody needs to stretch their legs. So we're going to adjourn until 4:20.
Get it ready. Going over all my...
Okay. There's enough of us here, so we're going to start again.
Like all of us here.
Well, not exactly, but almost.
So, do we need to have a motion to reconsider item number 5?
I don't know. I don't know. Is that
David, are
what's
you
being
asking the
requested?
commission to reconsider the decision of item number 5?
4. I would like that. I would certainly like, Mr. Grubbs is hung in there, still here with me. I would prefer to address item number 4 on that 20-foot issue now and not have to come back in a month. You're down a lawyer. It's all right.
When we get counsel back,
Okay.
we'll take that up.
I can give you legal advice if you want it. But.
So instead, where are we?
Maybe, 32, I think.
We left off at item number 32, case SPUD 1024 to rezone 15505 North Pennsylvania Avenue from SPUD 858 to SPD 1024.
David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, on behalf of the applicant, who is with me here today, and also with me are some troopers, some neighbors that are here, I believe in support. I think they had a 4 o'clock meeting, and they're angry at me, but they're still here, and I do appreciate that. So what we have is an SPUD that will allow an office warehouse type of use on the frontage of Penn. When we initially filed the application, there was quite a bit of concern by the Jefferson Garden neighborhood to the north, stemming from the original PUD that was approved. I wasn't involved, something happened along the way where some fence promises that were made to the neighbors through the old PUD. In the language of the PUD, it references the decorative fence on the south rather than the north. So on the north, where the neighbors thought they were getting a decorative fence, my client built a stockade fence pursuant to the language of the PUD. So what we've agreed to do, and we've modified the SPUD accordingly. What you'll see now is a fence being required on the northern side of this SPUD, and then the PUD to the west of us that will run the length of that northern boundary with brick columns on 36-foot centers. In between that, there will be vinyl panels to be white or off-white to match some of the character of the Jefferson Garden neighborhood. And there will be a 1-foot cement footer. So what you'll have is approximately 7-foot tall, vinyl fence with the brick columns. In addition, you'll see some renderings that are on the screen and handed out to you. I believe that they liked the architectural detail that we provided here. We further restricted the PUD to make sure that our roof line height was specified at 16 feet, and the architectural detail you see is 25 feet. So that, again, that was added to the SPUD. In the end, I do believe that the neighbors are now satisfied with the process where we are. We met several times, and it's our hope now that we've come to a point where we can all live together harmoniously with a product that they like. So with that, there are a few TEs. I do agree with, I think I agree with TE1. I'm confused about what TE1 means anymore, but I do think I can agree to it on this one. TE2 I agree with. TE3 I cannot agree with. There are already 2 access points there. So the land to the west of us is already developed as a personal storage facility. After this zoning gets approved, there will be a lot split that will occur, and so the western part with the personal storage will actually need that access drive on the north to serve as its access point, and the split will then leave this piece with the access drive to the south. So we would ask to delete TE number 2. TE number 4, I believe south just needs to be modified to north. That's what our agreement is with the neighbors, that decorative fence that we discussed on the 36-foot centers be on the north. And then we agree with TE5.
So is there a decorative fence on the south?
I don't believe so, no. And so that, again, I think that was always the intent, that it be on the north. Whoever drafted the PUD or was in the negotiations, that was a point of contention. That's what the PUD right now requires. That was never the intent. I think it's an apartment complex on our south. The neighbors always believed that that language was meant on the north. So we're now fixing that through this process.
But only on the north, not on the south.
Only on the north, that's right.
we could add a sentence to 4. So the screening on the south will be in accordance with the base zoning district.
Sure.
Okay.
I had a question for you about the dumpsters. Where are the dumpsters going to go?
Well, they're not in this application, actually. The dumpsters that will be utilized are, and I don't have a large-scale site plan, but if you have, do you have a site plan? Actually, if you can go back to that site plan you had, Cindy. It's this one. So if you see the call, do you have a laser? Okay. Where the hand is where the dumpster enclosure will be. So it's not within the boundaries of this spud. It got carved. I think it's part of the existing personal storage facility.
Okay. Is there anybody else here today who wants to be heard on this matter? Yes, there is. Tom Burrell, is it? Is that even close?
Yes, ma'am. Tom Burrell is the name. I'm a resident in Jefferson's Garden, and I'm representing the Homeowners Association, and we've worked this out with Dave and his party, and we concur with all the changes that they would put in this bud.
Well, you're very good to wait this long to tell us that. Anyone else? Commissioners, do you have any questions either for Mr. Box or for Mr. Burrell? Was that better? Burrell? No? Comments, questions, motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the application, subject to the TEs, amending TE number 4 to reflect that screening on the south side of the property has to meet the base zoning district. Thank you. And yes, amending TE 4 to also reflect instead of the south boundary is referenced, it'd be the north boundary.
And then TE 3, delete, is what our request was.
Oh, I'm sorry. And deleting TE 3. I missed that one. Sorry.
JJ, do you have anything you want to tell us about deleting TE number 3? Is there anything we need to know about deleting TE number 3?
No, it's really necessary the way they're going to split the property. Drives are existing.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 32, deleting TE number 3 and amending TE number 4. Cast your votes, please. It is approved.
Shall we go back to the question? We might need
Yes,
Susan
now
to
that-
advise
now that
us.
we
since
have
we've
you.
already made a recommendation, or we voted to continue item 4 to February 8th, and David's requesting that we reconsider that.
Yes, you would need
So
to
we
do a
need to have
motion
another
to
motion.
reconsider and vote on that, and then hear the discussion, and then make another motion.
Make a motion that we rehear item number 4.
I have a motion and a second to reconsider item number 4. Would you cast your votes, please? We will reconsider that item.
For the record, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. My request would be similar to what the commission did on a few of the other ones, is strike the two sentences that we've discussed. So that would be paragraph 8A6 and 8C6. So we would agree to TE number 1, except for we can't agree to the 20-foot issue. So we agree to TE1, subject to not being required to meet the 20-foot request found under 8A6 and 8C6.
Okay. Have we lost Nathan? Okay, that's where we are then. Discussion?
Second.
A motion and a second to approve item number 4, which again was on the consent docket, with the amendment to TE number 1 to eliminate the requirement for a 20-foot separation.
Maybe I'll just read it into the record so
Would you?
it's specifically clear. To amend TE1 to handle paragraph 8, which is entitled Utilities, sub A sub 6, which says no structures within 20 feet of any existing or proposed sanitary sewer main, and still within paragraph 8 entitled Utilities, sub C, sub 6, no structures within 20 feet of any existing or proposed water main or fire hydrant.
So there you go. I have a motion and a second. Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved.
Thank you. It's the longest it's taken to get through a consent docket? 4:30?
Item 33 was continued. Item 34 is SPUD 853 to rezone 3500 North Lindsay Avenue from R1 to SPUD 853.
Hello.
Hello.
Give us your name and address for the record, please.
Scott Randall, Oklahoma City Public Schools, 2500 Northeast 30th.
Before we get too far down the line on this item, this is a really unusual situation because this is a application which is identical to an application that's already been approved once by both us and the City Council.
Correct.
And things have happened in consequence of that approval. But as a result of those things that have happened, there has been some interest and notice taken by the community at large surrounding the site that I think I, for one, looking at the documentation and the information provided by protestants to this application, would really very much like to kind of take a step back, have the opportunity to meet with the community, hear their concerns, see what, if anything, can be done to address them. I mean, as I understand it, they're sort of twofold. One has to do with issues of drainage, and those are technical issues, and we have people, and I'm sure you have people, and we can, deal with those and discuss those. But also, I think there is just a more generalized concern about the loss of the space that I gather has been very much used by and part of the community with respect to the playground and so on. I think, as is represented by the fact that we've approved this once, people up around the Horseshoe recognize the need for the facility that you're, wanting to put here, and I don't think that per se is an issue, but I do think that maybe this is a case, and because it's clear that there are multiple people here, I'm sorry you people have sat on those benches all this time just to hear me say this, but rather than try to tell people we were going to continue it and still have you come and be, confused or disappointed about that, I wanted to wait and have it called in turn. But I think what really needs to happen, and I think Commissioner Cooper agrees, is that we need to continue this case, take a little time, meet with the community, get some input from them, hear their concerns and questions, see what, if anything, can be done to address them and deal with them before we reconsider this case. And if you're agreeable to that, then I'm going to just ask for a motion to that effect.
We're agreeable to that, and the district certainly wants to be welcomed by the neighborhood. We want to be a good partner within the neighborhood, and so we recognize the interest of the neighborhood to be able to continue to utilize that property for community events, and we want to support that. And along with that, though, we don't seek to be confrontational or controversial with this application. And so if it does reach a level, we would consider even the withdrawal of the application. So we don't really like that option, but that is something we would be willing to consider and would put, just want to make that a note of record.
Well, and I'm glad to hear you say that you're willing to work with them and hear what they have to say and try to meet their concerns. But, an empty school sitting there probably is not in anybody's best interest. So I do have people who are signed up to speak on this matter. Robert Parker, Gina Blaylock. Mr. Parker? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Blaylock, are you here as well? There you go. Yeah, so my question to you and to anybody else here today who was wanting to be heard on this matter is whether you're agreeable to that approach, to us just taking some time, taking a step back, meeting with the community, with the district, having staff participate in that process and see, if we can figure out where we are and where we need to go from here.
First of all, my name is Robert Parker, and I am the engineering representative for the Capitol View Neighborhood Association, and they have not been a good steward. That's what I'm here to say today. I have tried to get with the district and discuss the implementation of this rezoning, have received any response at all. Furthermore, they actually went and obtained a building permit and have completely tore up the whole lot. It's gone.
Well, so
I have no trust.
I would just say, with
but
respect,
yes, I'm willing to sit down with them.
Having received the approvals that they needed, they were within their rights to do that. I mean,
But they have exceeded what their blueprint said that they were going to do.
They were approved for the rezoning because they sent the notices to another neighborhood and was stated that there was no protest. And today I have 82 signatures in protest of changing it because of the impact of public health and safety, with putting a 30-foot by 8-foot detention pond up there where kids congregate, where we've had our block parties at, our kids event, Touch a Truck. We've had the Girl Scouts up there. We've had a lot of people up there, and we've used the facility, and children still congregate up there, and we call it the Wall. The kids meet up there, they play up there. It's unreasonable for me to think that a 30-foot by 8-foot detention pond would be set in the heart of our community, where kids go on the property and could be possibly drowned. And then the other...
Rather than discuss the merits of the case today, my question to you is whether you're willing to have us continue this matter.
I think he said he would
take some time
he would pull the application. Is that what I heard you say, sir? And I think we would have to start over with that because it was illegally rezoned.
Well, and that's what we're doing. We're starting over.
May I ask the council or the commission itself, when you speak of continuance, what time frame are you speaking of? Because we have been getting resistance. We've been wanting to meet with them.
That's my question back to you, I guess.
We're willing to meet.
What kind of a time frame do you think will be needed? And maybe staff will want to weigh in on this with respect to setting up some kind of a community outreach, have meetings, get whatever input we need. Do we have a sense of a month or
at least
6
a month.
weeks or a month? Do you think that time frame would work for you?
As long as they can get their plans to me, the engineering representative, in time for me to review, no problem.
I assume those are on file with the city, are they not?
Yes, they are.
So, okay. So, okay, all right.
I suggest that, why don't we do this?
Offices were closed, and when I tried to...
Sir, please address... Sir, please address your comments to me.
I think that I'll move a month, 1 month.
Okay.
And then if the parties aren't ready at that time, we could set it off again if need be, okay? We do want to encourage everybody to be cooperative in the process, and I think we can get there if we do. Okay? 1 month continuance.
What's the date of that?
February 8th.
And I would encourage you to develop, whether it's an email chain or a list of phone numbers and mailing addresses, whatever is the most functional way, so that there can be some cross-communication. We don't want people coming down, showing up here, and then learning that it's been continued again or whatever. So when we start, I guess we can start from here with respect to folks that need to be notified. Yes, it is part of the case file.
Certainly will.
Okay, so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue this item for 1 month until February the 8th. I would very much like to be in attendance at that meeting. I'm sure Commissioner Cooper would too.
Exactly.
No way I'm going to that.
I've expressed to both parties that we'd make ourselves available as much as possible to attend the meeting so we have a date.
Okay. Cast your votes, please. It is continued.
Item 35 was also continued. Item 36 is SPUD 1030 to rezone 4100 South Chuck Hall Road from AA to SPUD 1030.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Sims, 4100 South Chuck Hall Road. My wife and my in-laws, we purchased the property here as shown on the plans. And whenever we purchased it, we were under the impression that with nearby residential properties running adjacent to it, that we would have the opportunity to consider splitting that land, which is why we considered purchasing it together. Obviously as a family unit, my wife being the only child, we're considering the long-term benefit to our family. And so being on the same property with our in-laws would give us the opportunity for them to have access to our children and for us to have access to them as they need support and long-term care. And so as a family, we went in and purchased the land together, and so we're looking to rezone the property from agricultural to rural residential so that we can create 2 lots where we would live side by side as family. In that, we would create, in creating 2 properties, we would still continue to meet the rural medium intensity property dwelling unit levels of less than 0.5 dwelling units per acre, and we would make sure that we considered the needs of the other residents around us in order to make sure that they've been given appropriate consideration for sight lines as well as any considerations they need relative to egress and access.
Are you aware that there is some protest in this case?
Yes, we are aware.
Okay. I do have some folks who are signed up to speak.
Okay.
Do we have any questions of the applicant before we do that? No. Terry, is it Botchlet? All right, first time. Would you come down and speak to us, please?
I printed this off. I'm not real good at this, but I'm going to go through this anyway. So this is not personal against anybody, but I'm against this. I've lived here for 35 years. I live directly across the street from this property. All this land was platted 30 or 40 years ago. Covenants are probably the same for all additions as they are all 5-acre tracts. I met with Mr. J.J. Chambliss and the OK Subdivision and Zoning 2 times on 2 separate days last week to understand their response to this application. Their staff recommendation was a maximum of 2 lots would be permitted. This recommendation was made with incomplete and erroneous information. The decision of Oklahoma Zoning to split this lot was made with the expectation of water and sewer being available. This will never happen. Water and sewer available in the area is only south of 44th due to the multi-million-dollar expansion of Mustang School and housing development. There are no plans to extend water and sewer north of 44th. This staff report 8A4 says the developer will be required to extend gravity sanitation sewer system to reach each lot. 8C2, the developer will be required to extend minimum 12-inch water main. 8C3, water distribution to both lots. 8C8, water main extension to both properties. 9A3, service efficiencies, water close to the service, sewer within open shed, investment needed, fire is urban, it's up on 29th Street, or 15th Street. When is the developer going to put these in? Usually these utilities and roads are in before any building permits are issued to home builders. The plot plan also does not show easement for these services or where it would go through the neighborhood for hookups. These are requirements of Oklahoma City Planning Commission. The plot plan also does not show location of the leaching fields for a septic tank that will have to be used. There are approximately 64 5-acre tracts east of Check Hall that are one-dwelling residences and approximately 50 5-acre one-dwelling tracts west of Check Hall, equaling a total of 115 families within a 1-mile radius. All these families live within the covenants of their area and the AA zoning of each of Oklahoma City. Each bought these properties with the expectation of rural country living with their animals and agriculture zoning and spacing. Only a few families were given notice of this rezoning. Concerns include this rezoning request would grant special privilege to this land, which would set a precedent that would allow any other landowners to request and be granted the ability to split their property. This could erode the aesthetics and openness of the neighborhood 5-acre tracts, cause contamination of water wells and increased septic systems being installed, decrease values, increase traffic, increase curb garbage collection, cause drainage problems during heavy rains, and eventually change the rural area to city zoning. This is happening all over the country. Less than 1% want to be treated special and think the current and standing laws, either they do not apply to them or they want to change them to suit their needs and they should get special treatment. Mr. Beasley has lived at this address for over 100 days, for around 100 days. Signed the contract to buy this property with the covenants in place. He knew what they were and wants to change this for his financial gain. This will open the floodgates and destroy the community we have built and enjoy, and they won't even be notified of this opinion. All the people that have joined this property are against it, and I brought notification from each of those people. Mr. Turpin couldn't be here today because he's 85 years old and it's a little cold out there for him today. But he did have the same problems with family. He added on to his house, used the existing septic tank, water well. He just put another bedroom in and another bathroom for his family to move in with him because of his age, and that is acceptable to everybody in the area. No one in this area I've spoken to wants this rezoning. All were against it, and I've brought their signatures to speak for some of them that were unable to be here because of work commitments or medical restrictions. At this time, Oklahoma City does not have any plans to add our area to Oklahoma City water and sewer system. Therefore, if this is granted, there will be a potential increase of 114 added homes, wells, and septic systems. This could cause current wells to become contaminated, as well as probably losing our AA agriculture zoning altogether. This change was not desired by the neighborhood. My well 2 years ago, during the drought, went dry and caved in. I had to put a whole new well in. We start putting more wells and more septic systems in, it's only going to get worse. This is way out on the west end of Oklahoma City, and it's not the best habitat. I mean, the ground is rough, and the water's not very much of it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Does anyone, member of the commission, have a question for Mr. Botchlet? No? Well, I guess I'll jump in. I really cannot support this application. I understand completely your motivation for wanting to do this. There is a process by which family members can obtain a variance to put on a medical basis to put a mobile home on 5-acre tracts for the care of family members. But this is an area that really is a 5-acre tract area, and I completely understand that people who live out there bought those places and live out there for that reason. This is not a question of, impending development encroaching on rural property. I just can't support this application, so I'm sure other commissioners will have things that they want to say as well.
Well, I would add that we're not completely set on splitting the land if that doesn't work for the best interests of those around us. We're not trying to impose some will or create some financial gain, as may have been alluded. We're trying to bring our family together. So if we can somehow, if we could receive an exception where we could build another single-story home for our family to live on the same land, keep it a 5-acre lot and keep it zoned as AA, we would certainly be okay with that. We just thought this was the appropriate channel to take. We're not trying to change the economics of the area by any stretch of the imagination.
I think if you meet with the city staff again, they could probably provide you with some direction on the best way to approach that without the rezoning.
Okay.
Wait, just a sec. How big is your property, sir?
It's 5.01 acres.
So they can't hit the 5-acre bid with 2 houses on it. I mean, it just can't happen, right? As
Mr. Botchlet said, I mean, technically they could add on to their first house.
Well, they're
adding the same amount of people in the end.
We're not here to design homes.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be mad either.
But just a sec. Let me finish this. I don't see, it is a bit out of character for the area. I had a question about this was not an administrative split because we had to do rezoning, right? I mean, was that the reason? Doesn't that typically, a lot of times, I'm just curious. Can't do it? Just wondered.
Jared might be able to answer that.
Yeah, Jared Martin, Development Services. With it currently being zoned AA, minimum lot size is 5 acres, so we can't do.
You couldn't do it as an admin split. Okay, that was just a question I had. Okay. Look, I don't think it's necessarily the answer in this particular area. It seems a bit out of character. I don't, to Mr. Botchlet's point, I don't necessarily subscribe to the apocalyptic result of splitting a single lot in an area. I don't think there'll be a large portion of people coming down here because there's a lot of things that go into just splitting a lot, right? You can't necessarily, for commercial development, et cetera, it doesn't always just work. You can't just carve up land. There's things that go into that. But I don't know that I can support this particular application for this one split. I was torn. I'm typically pretty easy on these things, but I don't know that it's in character with the rest of the area out there.
I think we generally are pretty easy on these things if there is not an indication that it's a problem for the
Well, I can't see
surrounding
anything but
property.
5 acres. When I look at the map, I don't see anything other than 5 acres. Although I will caution Mr. Botchlet, I do not think that will be the case soon. Because Check Hall Road and Southwest 44th isn't that far out.
That's what we've noticed. That's what we've noticed. If you look at the map, what's adjacent to us, just the east is residential, southeast is residential, south is residential, southwest is residential. And if you go just a little bit further north, we used to live another 1.5 miles north of this, and that's all residential. So quite literally surrounded by residential properties and neighborhoods. So.
You may just hold on to this for a while and come back because the character of this area is changing. It may not be ripe right now, and Commissioner Coffey is well familiar with this spot in the road, but to you, sir, I'm just fair warning, I think it's coming that way.
My deal is, if we do a spot zone on this, Who's to say the next one comes in and doesn't want a chicken farm or a pig farm?
Well, I don't think we'd agree
I
to
don't think
pick
that's
it.
going to be there,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, it sets a precedent.
I'm not as concerned about a chicken farm or a pig farm as I am about other people wanting to subdivide their property.
So, I think in this case, you could take an indefinite continuance, or we could just deny your application. You might take an indefinite continuance or something like that, and then you
Let's
could
take a continuance, and we'll consider how we need
think
to move
about
forward
it.
in another.
Yeah, that way maybe
Have some additional conversations with planning.
save you some fees later on or something like that. How's that?
No, really, go ahead, vote and deny it. You can come back and put it in again. But that will give us some type of an end instead of having to watch over our shoulder.
Well, he has to come back to get it approved. What we're trying to do is potentially save him another filing fee to have to come back, refile, et
I
cetera.
think the question
Does he
then,
have
though,
to do that?
becomes, Commissioner Hensley, I think the question then becomes one of notice. Will the neighbors be
Come back for
aware
notice.
when the application comes back to us?
If you deferred indefinitely, you would have to send out a notice.
Oh, we would? Okay.
How many
So,
people were notified?
Wait. Just a second.
I
Just a
think
second.
in consideration of the other homeowners that have 5-acre plots, that I cannot support this application. It's not about one homeowner, it's about all of the homeowners. And I agree that not too far in the distant future, that may change, but I think for now, I cannot support this application.
So you want to deny it?
Yes.
All right. Now, we're going to have to deny it. I'll change my motion. Motion to deny.
let me just be clear here. You would prefer to deny it than to continue it indefinitely?
Yes.
I mean, look, what's the difference? Help me out, Sarah.
Okay, so the difference would be if you're recommending denial, so the applicant would have the option to take it to City Council to seek an approval. Or if you do an indefinite continuance, then the applicant would have to submit a new property ownership list and pay half the filing fee.
He saves half.
He would pay half.
Right.
Okay, yes, half of a new application.
Right.
Yes.
It's up to the applicant. I mean, I'm easy. I don't think you're going to get approved.
Well, we have a motion, don't we?
Yes?
And the motion is to deny. Did I have a second?
Well, my initial motion was to continue it indefinitely.
Oh, that's where we are.
I'll withdraw that motion since it hadn't been voted on and move to deny.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, Commissioner Coffey. I thought Commissioner Coffey had made a motion to deny it.
I think she just suggested it.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I will second the motion to deny.
Doesn't matter.
We would prefer to defer if that would help us save with a filing fee.
Half of it. Half of it.
Certainly, yeah. It's quite an expense for our family. So.
Sir, were you aware that the staff recommendation is that you would extend sewer service to this if approved, which would be a considerable expense, also city water?
We did see that one of the things that, and obviously we were going to want, before we sought permit, we would want to seek additional clarification around, there's an existing second well on the land, and obviously septic is typically the preferred sewage disposal method, and so we're going to seek that as direction as opposed to extending public service.
And just to be clear, Aubrey raises a good point. That's not what the application, that's not what we would, were we to have approved this, we would have approved it, but you would have had to bring water and sewer.
I see.
So that's not inexpensive.
Understood.
So your application, effectively, this needs to be denied. It's going to have to be a new application.
Well, we have a motion and a second to deny it.
Let's vote on it.
So let's vote on that. Cast your votes, please. It is denied.
This is my touch.
Item 37 was continued. Item 38 was continued, and item 39 is a resolution of the Planning Commission recommending approval of the proposed amended and restated Downtown and Maps Economic Development Project Plan. And here to give you a brief summary of this is Regina Story, and she works for the City Manager's Office in Economic Development.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The item being considered today is the amendment to the Downtown Maps Economic Development Project Plan. This project plan governs the administration of the downtown TIFs, which are TIF 2, 3, 8, and 10. There have been numerous amendments, or several at least, brought before this body in the past since the initial adoption in 2000. The most recent amendment was in early 2016. These actions are in part required as a follow-up to the redevelopment agreement and the funding plan for the Convention Center Hotel that was approved by City Council in July. The proposed amendments are budgetary in nature and do not affect boundaries or land use at all. The amended plan would increase the TIF 2 budget category of hotels and commercial development by $30 million, as well as move $5 million from the economic development budget category to the redevelopment framework budget category. It also adds a definition to the budget category for clarification to include assistance for the development of the Convention Center Hotel. The amended project plan was considered and approved by the TIF Review Committee on December 12th. Adoption of this resolution will state that this body has determined the amended project plan to be in conformance with the comprehensive plan for the city. If this body adopts the resolution, it will move through the ordinance process in coming weeks, and I'm happy to answer any questions and ask for your approval.
Is there anybody who wants to be heard on this matter?
Anybody left?
I don't think so. I think we're it. So
I will make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number, 39. I've lost track.
That's based on the
Adopt the application.
Adopt the resolution.
I'm adopting the resolution. That's my motion.
Because it's in
Sarah.
conformance with the plan.
Correct.
All of that. Cast your votes, please. It is approved, adopted.
And I don't see any applicants that have shown up from continuing cases 19 and 26 to the heel.
Move 2-week continuances for those two items, please.
I think one each.
19 and 26.
Correct. Motion, single motion.
Second.
I have a motion to continue item number, a motion and a second to continue item number 19. Would you cast your votes, please?
Motion to continue item number 26.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue item number 26.
2 weeks.
Again, 2 weeks. Cast your votes, please. They're both continued, and I assume staff will take some action to contact the applicants and let them know we'd like for them to come and see us.
And the remaining items were continued.
So we're good. Additional items, communications and reports. Planning Commission committees, do we even have any at this point?
We still do have a committee that we elected to work with us as we move through the Development Code update process, and I can give you an update about the Development Code update process, in that we're closing out the first phase, which you all saw presentations and helped us have meetings with the consultant that did the analysis of the zoning code, identifying challenges and issues and recommending a proposed path forward. The second phase will be beginning soon with a new RFP that we will be releasing, looking for a consultant team to help us implement some of those recommendations, starting to form focus groups, working with city departments and city staff to really start to get into the details of the code update process. So that committee will have a lot more work and opportunity through this second phase than even we did in the first phase. So that's the report on the status of that. The other thing I wanted to remind you about is that commission and committee training workshop will be January 6th, which is a Friday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., and it's at the city's central maintenance facility at 15th and Portland. So we will have all the design review committees and commissions, Board of Adjustment, and Planning Commission there. Planning Commission will have a breakout from the rest of the group so that we can talk about different types of things specific to the Planning Commission from the rest of the group. So I hope you all can attend.
I would really like to encourage everyone to attend. I know it's styled as a training opportunity, but really it's kind of more than that, and I think it would benefit from everyone's participation, and I think everyone would benefit from participation. So really encourage you to attend.
I will be out of town for that meeting, so I will not attend.
Okay. Planning Commission members, anybody have anything in particular they want to say? I can tell
It would be
Scott does.
super helpful if we could get some clarity from staff on this water line issue before the next meeting. Super helpful. Like a good white paper would be great. Somebody.
Well, at least some idea of where we're going, if not an answer, so.
An answer would be really helpful.
Of course it would. Planning Department?
I jumped the gun and gave you my report with the committees.
Okay. Development Services Department? Municipal Counselor's Office? Oh, we're just speeding along here. Citizens to be heard, no. Other business? I don't think so. I'll take a motion to adjourn. A motion is second. Cast your votes, please. We're adjourned. I did see that I had a